and beyond. Hope everybody's having a great Wednesday as we look forward to tomorrow night. Tonight, Phillies. Tomorrow night, Sixers. Game 3. A lot going on there. Bill Colarulo joining us all day today. Bill, how are you today?
I'd be doing better if the series was 1-1, but hey, we'll talk about it.
With that, we will. We certainly will. And we'll also hit on tomorrow, which is Eagles Draft Day. So a lot of stuff going on in this city. I know you have an unbelievable amount of notes getting ready for this Eagles thing tomorrow. Adam Schefter spoke with the morning show this morning and had some interesting thoughts. So we're going to play again today. Raymond, how are we?
Doing wonderful. Doing wonderful, Bob.
You look well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Are you ready for your trip? People like Ray, here's what they do, Bill. I'm just going to take a weekend on the West Coast. So, that's
exactly. People like me. Yep.
I'm just saying.
I said, could I afford to do more days on the West Coast? The answer was no. So it became a weekend, following the Phillies out to San Diego.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, Phillies out in San Diego. Adam, Phillies Bat Boys here. Talked to him between the shows. What a great kid he is, and he's got a lot going on of goodness for himself and for the community that we're going to hear a lot about in the upcoming months. But before we dive deeper into everything, of course you have to look at the front page first.
Now, the front page. The stories everyone's talking about. 97.5, The Fanatic.
Okay, the L2M came out yesterday. L2M is last 2 minutes. The report came out. The officials concluded, along with another team, the way it works is you have a group of officials, another group of a team. They decide what is incorrect, correct, good calls, calls that might have been missed. The calls that were missed, according to the report, as you've already heard, I'm sure, was that Tyrese Maxey was fouled, falling down to the court by Josh Hart, and that he was fouled on the inbounds pass by Jalen Brunson pulling of the jersey. The wording of the Nick Nurse timeout not being, the wording is, I forget the exact wording, but it was not recognized. It was explained to me like officials didn't see it. I think there was probably, this is just my take on it, there was probably some human nature involved in that. The Sixers only had one timeout left. Officials do know that. Nick Nurse half-assed calling a timeout on one of the instances, kind of a, yeah, it's here, but no, looks like I'm taking it away. Probably could have been more demonstrative. Jimmy Lynam was on with the best show ever yesterday and had a great story about how he has a picture in his shore house and he doesn't have any pictures of himself, of his career. And he talked about what it meant, how you call a timeout when you really need one. So it was really cool. There's a picture in his house of him standing at the foul line, Bill, going up to a referee in the referee's face. They were playing Michael Jordan and the Bulls, and he's in the referee's face calling a timeout all the way at the foul line. Just giving an example, and Jimmy didn't even remember the moment, but Jimmy said, look, when you need a timeout, that's how you go about calling it. He even said that if you really pressed Nick Nurse, he would probably say, yeah, if I really, really wanted it, I probably would have been more demonstrative. So that's all up for debate, whatever happened there. Tyrese Maxey, most improved player yesterday. John Kincade couldn't give a rat's ass about it. I think it's pretty cool. That's good. I love that you have a player that wins an award, recognized by the league. You can't deny that. He's putting in the work, as we all know. So congratulations, Tyrese Maxey. The Sixers, obviously a tough spot being down 2-0, but are they in a good spot? Like, you look at these two games, and we talked about it with Amy yesterday, and I'm anxious to talk about it with Bill today. Are the Sixers in a good spot? Are you okay with the way the two games – obviously you're not okay with the way the two games went, but are you okay with the adjustments the Sixers made from Game 1 to Game 2? Should have won Game 2, could have won Game 1. Are you okay? Jimmy Lynam also, I'll reference him again. He says Sixers are going to go back to New York 2-2. So that all starts tomorrow night. We'll take a look at it. A lot of talk about changing rotations. Should Buddy Hield not be getting playing time? Should other players get more? People talking about deeper guys on the bench should be getting some run. We'll talk about all that. Do you think the doings of the other day, is it human nature that the officiating might be more favorable to the Sixers tomorrow night? As everyone well knows, and I say it a lot, I have been in meetings with referees, all of those things. It is a studied thing. It is not a personal. They are out to do the best job that they can, and it wasn't good the other night. We all know that. People have been saying to me, "Oh, this is great. Sixers are going to get a lot of calls tomorrow night." I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be as fair can be, and we'll see how it all plays out. 7:30 tomorrow, Game 3 at the Wells Fargo Center. We are going to be down there. Bill, myself, and D. Lonham will be there from 6 to 7:30 to give you a Sixers-Knicks pregame show. Your Philadelphia Eagles, well, they still sit at number 22. Adam Schefter was on with the morning show this morning, and he had some things to say about what might happen with these Philadelphia Eagles.
I've never said I expect them to. I'm just saying their history has told us that they look to do that, and they will look to do that again, I expect. Whether they actually do it or not depends on who's on the board, who's available. And let's use 16 as an example. 16, I believe, is Seattle. 16 doesn't have a second-round pick. 16 second-round pick went for Leonard Williams, and therefore Seattle would love, I'm sure, to recoup a second-round draft pick. And some of the players I've heard connected to Seattle they're considering likely would be there at 22 as well. So it makes all the sense in the world for Seattle to move back 22, for Philly to move up to 16 if the guy they want is still there, and move forward in that regard. Now, I really don't know who it is that Philadelphia would be eyeing at that spot that they would feel the need to move up 6 spots to go get, but that's been their history. And I would also say this, I think there's a great relationship between the Seahawks general manager, John Schneider, and the Eagles general manager, Howie Roseman. And so it would be very simple for those guys, if they haven't already, and I'll bet they have, to have had some sort of conversation, putting parameters in place. Hey, we'd love to come at 16. If we do, we'll give you this. You interested? Yes. I'm interested too. Let's just see how this goes, and we'll follow up here during the draft. I mean, very simple call.
That's interesting because Shefty usually have to read between the lines of what he's saying. That was full out there, that a trade for the 16th pick might be something that the Eagles are looking at. He didn't know the player they might be looking at 16, but guess what? That's one of the reasons why Bill Colarulo's here, because we're going to ask him that very question. Who might the Eagles be looking at number 16? Your Philadelphia Phillies, they lost for the first time in 8 games last night. The bats were silent, only 5 for 32 last night. That's not going to get it done in most instances. They did jump out to a 1-0 lead, but wind up losing 5-1. Christopher Sanchez, 3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 5 runs, but only 1 of them earned as the Phillies accumulated 3 errors last night. Junior Marte, it's funny. They put him in there like, Junior, just get your arm warm because, we're not going to win this game, so don't worry about it. So he was just throwing batting practice last night. I don't think this takes away from his MVP that he's going to capture at the end of the year. He still is the adopted son of this show, so that's okay. Junior was just showing that he was human last night. You don't want to show everything all the time, so don't worry about Junior Marte. They go tonight, 6:40. Spencer Turnbull on the mound with what may be his last start in the near future. It looks like that Taijuan Walker is going to start on Sunday out in San Diego, and it looks like Spencer Turnbull might be the guy that will go to the bullpen. So there you have it. That is what is going on locally on the front page. Ray, I do want to ask you, what games are you going to in San Diego when you go out for your, luxury weekend?
Yeah, luxurious weekend. I'm thinking it's going to be Friday and Sunday. I think that's what we've decided as a group.
Okay.
That we're going to have the ultimate Philadelphia sports doubleheader tip-off of 76ers at a bar across the street from Petco Park. And
That's
then,
pretty cool, a 10 o'clock Sixers game.
Yeah, it's going to be nice. So it also means that Saturday night, we have to keep our eye on the prize for a 10 a.m. 76ers game. Make sure that we are fully awake and out the door by 10 a.m. to go watch that game. So
okay.
It's going to be keeping our focus
We'll all
there.
be rooting for you back here in Philadelphia.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I think you should be rooting the next day for me to be where I need to be more than rooting for where I should be.
Here.
Which is there, yes.
Yeah.
That
Exactly.
red eye has to take off at the right time.
Now, Bill, you're a former lawyer, much success in your life, and good for you. I mean, did you ever afford yourself just a luxury weekend where you said, you know what? No, I'm not going to go down the shore. I'm not going to go down the Penn's Landing. You know what? I'm going to hit the West Coast for the weekend. Did you ever afford yourself that, Bill?
If I could die and come back as anybody, it's Ray Dunn, man.
All right. I
Got to
think I
cut
agree
that.
with
We're going to
you.
use that for a while.
Living the dream back there. And you get to work every day with Bob Cooney. Does it get better than that, Ray?
It does not get better than that. It is a wonderful world.
I don't know about that, Ray. I think you have your reservations about that, but that's okay. All right, so Bill, yesterday, and I'm so glad you're on with us today because this is something that it's kind of a legality type of thing with the last 2-minute report of it was deemed by the NBA that the referees missed 2 foul calls in the last 27 seconds of the game. One being the jersey pull on Tyrese Maxey. Another being when Tyrese Maxey fell down with the ball in his hands, that Josh Hart's leg was the cause of it, and a foul should have been called there. What does it mean to you when you hear it? Like, there's nothing you can do. It comes out, and that's the first question. Like, when it came out yesterday, I was in the car with my wife, and she's like, well, what does it mean? I can't really explain to her except to say nothing. It's an admission of guilt, but nothing can be done about it. What is your reaction when you hear it come out yesterday?
So the missed timeout for Nick Nurse, to me, was the less egregious of the 3 missed calls by the referees. Because, like you just mentioned in your daily news, he should have made it more clear that made it clearer that he wanted that timeout. Run out on the court if you have to. Who cares? Just stop the game. But it's the fact that not only did they miss 1 foul, but they missed 2 fouls in the final 30 seconds of the game. It's infuriating, and it's so frustrating because you can't do anything about it. And I know there's people out there, first of all, who say, well, Tyrese Maxey fouled Josh Hart first when he pushed off. No, that was in the L2M as well.
Right.
That would not have been a foul. I have a lot of people coming at me on Twitter talking about that. That was not a foul. They had said that in the L2M report. But what's so frustrating is I know the old argument, well, you should do enough to not be in that position. You should not allow yourselves to lose a game based off of what the officials do. But this is playoff basketball, Bob. A lot of times it comes down to the last possession. We knew this was going to be a battle against the New York Knicks. It's going to come down to the last 30 seconds. And the fact that they missed not 1, not 2, but 3 different things in the final 30 seconds, it's infuriating. And it's not here. We're not here crying. I have Knicks fans. Oh, you're crying. We're not crying about it. It's the most frustrating thing ever because, like you said, they're not going to go back and change it to 1-1. But if they make one of those calls, it's a 1-1 series, and they miss 3. So
Yeah.
It's just, you're getting me all worked up again, Bob, talking about it.
Oh, I didn't want you to get worked up. I apologize for that. Now, it's funny, with the Nick Nurse non-timeout, that is not labeled as a not seen call. It is labeled as, I was just reading it here. The exact wording is an attempt to call a timeout by Coach Nick Nurse during the play is neither recognized nor granted by the officials. They didn't say it. They didn't say it. Now, it's not that the refs aren't looking at Nick Nurse. They are. Now, I was told, as you guys know, I made phone calls on this and talked to many, many people about it. The referees, the 3 referees, are concentrating on the 10 players on the court. That is their number 1 assignment. Do the glances go over to the referees? Do the referees know that Philadelphia only has 1 timeout left? Yes, they do. Do they have to kind of read, and this is just my wording, do they have to kind of read the body language of a coach, whether he wants a timeout or not? If he's not definitively timeout, I guess human nature says yes. If I see Nick Nurse kind of half-ass, yeah, maybe. I guess I would err on the side of I'm not going to give him one. If he's not sure that he wants one, I'm not going to be sure that I'm giving him one. I don't know. I think maybe that's where some of it came in also, because when you do look at it, it's there. It's taken away pretty quickly. It's half-ass kind of ish.
And that's why that bothers me the least. If that was the only mistake, if let's say they don't get the timeout, but there's no fouls committed, it's a clean steal by the Knicks, and then they end up winning the game, we'd be upset, but I could see people saying you guys are just crying because he wasn't very clear with it. It's the 2 fouls on Maxey. 2.
Yeah.
That's the frustrating thing. And look, oh man, I'm forgetting his name now. Stephen Smith. Stephen Smith, right? Tyrone calls him Stephen.
Stephen A.
Stephen A. Smith. diehard Knicks fan.
Yep.
The fact that he even came out and said the Sixers were robbed, that he was sitting courtside and Tyrese Maxey was fouled multiple times.
I think he used the word mugged, Bill.
Mugged. Like, that's what makes it so frustrating. But look, if we're looking for, hey, this is what should have been done, yeah, Lowry probably should have called a timeout.
So that leads to my question to you, because that's my answer. What is the number one most frustrating thing to you in that last 27 seconds?
It's that Lowry didn't call the timeout.
Number one on my list, yes.
Especially because, and I don't want to be over the top hard on Kyle Lowry because he's done a lot of good things in this series. But first off, he did miss the free throw right before that.
Yeah, he missed 2 free throws in the last few minutes of the game.
That turned out to be a problem. But
Right.
he was brought in here to be the veteran. He's 38 years old. He's been in these big moments before. He's the player that you look to not make those types of mistakes. If Maxey had made a mistake like that, not taking the timeout on the inbound, maybe you say, okay, this is the first time he's played in that big of a moment. Not Kyle Lowry. You don't expect that from him.
I called it egregious yesterday. I would love to talk to Kyle. Maybe I'll try to grab him tonight tomorrow night rather, down at the game, to wonder, because I just know from my experience and the way Nick Nurse described it yesterday, like we want to try to get a quick inbound, if not get a timeout. Why wasn't that in Kyle Lowry's mind? Because that wasn't a quick, easy inbounds pass. That was very questionable. And if you have any questions there, I would assume this is how a coach described it. If you have any questions of whether you can get the ball inbounds or not, you go to the timeout. And Jimmy Lynam yesterday on the best show ever talked about the mistake by Kyle Lowry.
Kyle made a tragic mistake. He put Maxey in jeopardy. It was almost a football handoff, a little flip pass over the end line with 2 guys mugging Maxey. No. I love Kyle. I want Kyle and my guy at the end of a game on a short list of maybe 4 guys. But ready? He made a tragic mistake.
No, Jimmy, how do you really feel? It's funny, as we're playing that, Bill, Ray says into my ear, I love this guy. And Jimmy Lynam is just the absolute best. Probably one of the few people in this world that could look or would look Kyle Lowry in the eye and say, you made a tragic mistake, and Lowry would appreciate it and know that he did. But that's where I went first yesterday, Bill. Like, Nick Nurse took the podium and right away said he called timeout. The refs ignored me, and he went there. All I said was, I understand what he's saying. I would have rather him gone another way. I would have rather it been, yeah, we should have called a timeout. We didn't perform the best down the end. The refs didn't help us, but we could have been better. He didn't, but that's okay. I totally understand. If you put me, maybe even you, behind a mic 15 minutes after a tough loss like that, I'm probably not going to say the best of things either.
Now, in the moment like that, but, we'll talk later on in the show. Tyrese Maxey, he was also asked about what the plan is and how frustrating it is in light of the L2M report, and I loved what Tyrese Maxey had to say. But we'll continue the Sixers talk after the break, because it's not just what happened at the end of that game that has me frustrated. There's players on this Sixers team who have to step up, Bob. And I'm not talking about Joel Embiid. I'm not talking about Tyrese Maxey. I'm not even talking about the easiest target, Tobias Harris, that everybody wants to go after. There's other players on this team who are not delivering the way we thought they would deliver in the playoffs.
There's so many of them. And the shame of it is, or maybe the reason it's maybe exposed, so many guys on the Knicks, secondary players that are stepping up, that are playing really well. Jimmy Lynam also said later on that he thinks they're going to go back to New York 2-2. And I love that someone like Jimmy said that, because he doesn't, as you know, as the Delaware Valley knows, Jimmy Lynam doesn't mince words and doesn't say what people want to hear. He says what he believes, and that was one of them. Tyrese Maxey did win Most Improved Player of the Year yesterday, and his comments, I couldn't agree with Bill more, were absolutely spot on. Loved it. Loved this kid on the court. Love this kid off the court. We'll play that when we get back to you. Also, what Bill said, let's look at those secondary players. Who needs to do what, and what might you change? All that and a whole lot more. Bill Colarulo joins us all day today. Bob Cooney, middays, 97.5 The Fanatic. For joining us on this Wednesday morning as Bill Colarulo sits in with us all day today. Got to tell you, the 10 o'clock hour is brought to you by Window Nation. Take advantage of Window Nation's 50% off sale on all style windows. Plus, make no down payment with no payments and no interest for 12 full months. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. All right, so Tyrese Maxey, Bill, you and I are hand in hand in this one. Tyrese Maxey is giving the Most Improved Player award last night. I believe this interview was on TNT, if I'm not mistaken, it was. And he was asked about not only that, but of the goings-on the night before in the game against the Knicks.
You gotta be strong. I gotta be strong with the ball. I gotta be able to, like, when I get on the floor, I gotta be able to hug it and call a timeout. But, I mean, it is what it is. Like, it happened. You gotta let it go. I mean, you can't dwell on it now. If we dwell on it, then, in a couple days, we'll be down 0-3. We don't want to be down 0-3. You know what I mean? We know that we can still win this series. We got to go out there and prove that to everybody, not just ourselves. And it starts today, letting that go, and then tomorrow at practice, and then as soon as the ball goes up on Thursday, being a tougher team, not just physically, but mentally as well. I mean, we still had a chance to win the game. I got my layup blocked, and then, we missed a three at the end to tie. So we can't dwell on that. We can't leave the games in other people's hands. We got to go out there and take it.
I'll tell you what, that's my kind of answer, Bill.
I absolutely loved it. I heard it on the way in, or I heard it last night and was thinking about it on the way in, that you talk about him as a most improved player. That's a leader right there, the way he handled that.
Yeah.
I mean, he handled it better than even Joel after the game, and I know it was right in the moment. We said, you throw a microphone in our face 10, 15 minutes after. He didn't really talk about the refs, didn't blame anybody else, said we had an opportunity. I had my layup blocked. I love it. I think the mentality is right. Let's hope the rest of the team has the same mentality tomorrow night.
Yeah, thoroughly impressed with the way 23-year-old Tyrese Maxey handled himself last night, talking about that. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, Bill. Loved what Joel Embiid said, like, we're good. We got this. We're still gonna win this series. He couldn't look up into the lights because there's something weird. And I kept bringing it up on Sunday also. Like, what is up with his eye? Like, it seemed really weird. Now it's kind of gotten more traction. There seems to be something very strange going on with the one eye blink and all that stuff, but I haven't really seen it addressed. I forgot my newspaper today, Bill. I left it in the driveway, so if there was a story on it, I missed it. I'll have to look it up during the break. But just a lot of oddness going on with Embiid. But I like the way, and I wanted to get your reaction on this, Bill. I don't know if I'm sure you noticed. But on Monday, it seemed to be a concentrated effort on his part that every time he went to the ground, he got up quickly. Did you notice that?
I did. And you and I have talked about this before with him. He did. He looked like he was trying not to show that the knee was bothering him as much. He got up quick. Now, he did limp down the court a couple of times.
Oh, he certainly did.
But I'm not sure if there's anything you could do about that. But you're right. He did get up off the court a lot quicker. And I know there's still fans out there who direct a lot of their anger right now, and it's towards Joel. He's the last player. Him and Tyrese Maxey are the two last players that I would be directing any anger towards in light of the 0-2 start. I think Embiid has battled. I don't think that anyone would have held it against him if he didn't feel comfortable playing in these two games because of his knee, and he's going out there, and when he's on the court in 2 games now, they're a plus 17.
Yep.
I mean, he's done what he's needed to do. And I know people are going, oh, well, in the fourth quarter, he missed this, or he didn't have any rebounds. He didn't do this. If he was getting anything from another player not named Tyrese Maxey, they're up 2-0.
All right, so let's go down that avenue. Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid have been performing, I would say, the way most expected. And for people saying, oh, he didn't go into the lane, watch the game, the second half specifically. And I'm not being a wise ass saying, watch the game, because I watched it twice, and I was not surprised, but I noticed how many times on high pick and rolls that he rolled. He rolled into the lane looking for a pass. And we remember the one play, Maxey threw a low pass, and he kind of fumbled it a little bit, but then picked it up, made a lap. He rolled. He wasn't afraid to go into the lane. He wasn't afraid of contact or anything like that. He had 18 second-half points. They combined for 18, 15, 33, I think, of the 48 second-half points that the Sixers scored. That's great by them. That's not good by others. You said you weren't really pointing too much at Tobias Harris. Who's your main focus go on, Bill, when you're looking at this team and say, you got to get more from
I said I don't want to point at Tobias Harris. No, I'm going to point at Tobias Harris. What I'm saying is I'm not going just after the easy target because, yes, Tobias Harris, I think, needs to give us more. We've been saying that forever. But there's other players that I expected more from, and one of them is Kelly Oubre. Now, I know he's doing a good job of playing defense on Jalen Brunson, but one of the things that I kept talking about leading into this playoffs was they finally have a third scorer. Not only do they have Embiid and Maxey, they have the third scorer in Kelly Oubre. 14 points in 2 games?
Yeah.
4 points last game. I mean, that is, how does Kelly Oubre only muster 4 points in 25 minutes? And then you go to the 10-point game, he played 39 minutes, I believe. That's who I need more out of on the offensive side of the court. And look, like I said, I know he's doing a decent job on Brunson. But it's Kelly Oubre, and then the other player that I am shocked is not giving this team more is Buddy Hield. Daryl Morey at the trade deadline, quote, said, "We got the best player at the deadline. Buddy Hield is exactly what we're looking for. He's one of the best three-point shooters in NBA history. In 2 games against the New York Knicks, he's only taken 3 3-pointers, and he's missed all 3.
Yeah. And you know what, Bill? You know what surprises me? He's just a natural scorer. And we talked about that before. You put him on a floor, you don't need schemes for him offensively. It's kind of just go out and play, Kelly. And he goes out, gets the ball, goes to the rim, does all those things. The fact that he has been, short at the offensive end, it does surprise me. Now, I know. I see I think it's a great job that he's done on Jalen Brunson. Okay, that shouldn't take away completely from your offensive game. There are 2 sides of the ball. I understand that his concentration level is mainly focused at the defensive end, and offense, it's kind of like, oh, okay, here, catch up. But you still have to get more out of him. Buddy Hield, why is it that, he's not open a lot of times, and he's a little bit hesitant when he is open to shoot the ball? I don't see that from Bogdanovich. I don't see that from McBride. I don't see that from Dante DiVincenzo. And the reason I bring those 3 guys up, I don't think there's a lot of plays called for those 3 guys. They just get themselves open.
No, and you just mentioned McBride and Bogdanovich. Both of them missed big shots early in game 2, but then came back, no fear, and then hit their shots late. It's just frustrating to me because we go back to the trade deadline. And I remember being in here and being frustrated after the deadline, but then after the buyout market and they got Kyle Lowry, I said, okay, maybe Daryl Morey does have a plan. But now you look back at the trade deadline, the 2 big acquisitions were Buddy Hield and Cam Payne. Cam Payne didn't even play in game 2.
No.
2.5 minutes in game 1. So between those 2 guys, they're got, 2 points?
You can't have it. I mean, there has to be some secondary offensive options at that end of the floor. There just has to be. I expect there will be more so come Thursday night because I don't know how, but I think Nick Nurse is going to get those other players more involved. Yesterday was a day of, oh, my God, what the hell just happened? Natural reaction, and we heard from so many people yesterday. I'm anxious to hear what you have to say today. You've had a day to sit on it. You got the L2M report. There's been a lot going on. You've had a day to calm down a little, maybe. Where are you today? 610-632-0975. I'd love to hear where you are. Has your mood changed from yesterday? Are you still right there? I brought up the L2M to Bill, and it got him fired up, much like Ray got fired up yesterday. You should have seen Ray yesterday. Somebody questioned Joel Embiid.
He lost
Bill,
his mind.
I'm not kidding you. Like, he jumped out of his clothes. He was so on fire. Like, livid, I would say. And I've never used that word when I described Ray before. Livid. So how are you today? You still livid over what happened with the referees, with the Sixers play, with Nick Nurse, with what the Knicks did? Have you calmed down a little bit? Have you allowed yourself to look forward to tomorrow night? 610-632-0975. You can call us. Love to talk to you. You can text us and let us know. Bill, one thing I wanted to hit on you quickly before we get into it deeper later on in the show. Adam Schefter brought up the draft tomorrow night and how he fully, I'm paraphrasing, and I think he fully suspects that the Eagles might move up, and he even specifically said to number 16. If they should do that, and you don't have to give me specifics right now because we'll get specifics later, but if they should do that, what do you think position-wise they would be looking for?
I still have such a hard time believing they're going cornerback in this draft. I know a lot of fans are hoping for it. I know a lot of fans think if they move up, it's to get Quinyon Mitchell, the corner out of Toledo. But I think they're going offensive line. Even if they move up, I think they're going offensive line. The guy I love and the guy I want to see them take is Troy Fautanu out of Washington, who's the tackle, could probably play some guard, grow into that tackle position. I think they could move up for him if they move up. But, look, it's not really news right now to report that the Eagles may move up. I mean, this is what Howie Roseman does. He calls all the time. He's reaching out to everybody. There are some things that make a move up complicated, and John Kincade hit a little bit on this in the morning show, is if you're trying to get up to 12 with the Broncos, well, now it could make sense that you would give up one of your second-round picks. That's probably fair value, but I know some people are throwing around the Seahawks pick at 16.
Right, yeah.
You're not going to give up one of your second round. That's overpaying to get up that high. So I think there's some things that make it complicated because they don't have a third-round pick this season. Could they trade a pick next year? It just, to me, I would much rather see the Eagles get 3 of the top 53 players in this draft. Stay put at 22. Go 50 and 53. If it's not going to cost you one of those second picks to move up a little bit to get your guy, I'm good with it. But I don't see them drafting one of these top corners. I know that's what everybody wants, but I just don't see it happen.
I think people forget the plethora of cornerbacks that they have already on this roster.
There's a ton, and they got another one yesterday.
Exactly.
With Isaiah Rodgers being reinstated. But there's a corner that they could get in the second round. And Andrew DeCecco, who him and I have done some of these Birds Insider Countdown to Drafts, DeCecco does a great job if you haven't listened to him. And I think he's going to be on tonight with Pat Egan. He has me sold on Max Melton out of Rutgers, maybe at that 50th pick, because they can get a very good corner with that second-round draft pick. I think they're more likely to get a stud offensive lineman that could grow into a tackle with their first-round pick. That's why I think they go O-line.
Sorry, Ray. I know that makes you bang your head against the wall when offensive linemen are talked about with that first pick. I don't mind if they go after a big fatty. I told you that before. Nothing wrong at all with that. We'll get what you think they should do. Should they stay at 22 later? Or if you think they should move up. A lot of people on the line. We'll get to you as soon as we get back. A lot of Sixers talk going on as we anticipate Game 3 tomorrow night, Wells Fargo Center. How you feeling about it? Bill Colarulo's with us all day long. Bob Cooney, middays, 97.5 The Fanatic. today, this Wednesday, day before Game 3, day before NFL Draft. As we hit that and everything else, as Bill Colarulo joins us all day today, Ray Dunn, producing behind the glass, doing an excellent job, as he always does. Now, I noticed you guys are on the YouTube page. Hello, all our YouTubers out there. We love you all. You know that. Somebody was questioning me, really? Plethora of corners. It was the worst cornerbacks, the worst corners in the league last year. Those are two different tales. They do have a plethora of cornerbacks because if you look at it, you can go Darius Slay, Keely Ringo, Zach McPherson, Isaiah Rodgers now that he has been reinstated, James Bradbury, Eli Ricks, Josh Jobe, Avonte Maddox, Mario Goodrich. Like, my point being, the Eagles have used a lot of picks to go out and get corners already. Bill, you said you don't know if they're going to go for a corner in the first pick. I would tend to agree with you. I don't think they're going to do that simply because Keely Ringo is a guy that I think they're thinking highly of, and you have a lot of others that they already took.
I'm a big fan of Keely Ringo, and I think they are as well. Going into the draft last year, he had a first or second round grade on him. Some people had him as high as a late first round draft pick. They moved up in the fourth round to get him by trading their third round draft pick this year. That's part of the reason they didn't have a third round. They had 2 third-rounders. They got rid of one in the Kenny Pickett trade as well. But they traded a third-round draft pick last year to move up in the fourth round to get Keely. And he battled last year at times. And people forget how young this guy is. He's still only 21 years old.
Right.
So I think they're high on him. Isaiah Rodgers, only 26 years old, when he did play in 2022, was very good. Now, can he get back to that form after being off a year? I think he can.
So do I.
So I'm not one of these people who say, hey, draft a corner in the first round, because here's the other thing that I think people are failing to remember. Just because they take a corner in the first round doesn't mean this guy's going to be ready to play this season anyway. So a lot of people are just assuming, move up and take Quinyon Mitchell. Yeah, I think he's going to be good. There's no guarantee, though. We know it's a crapshoot, and we don't know if he'll be ready week 1, game 1 anyway. So, the people who don't take an offensive lineman, it's basically redshirting him until Lane Johnson retires. Well, what leads you to believe that corner that gets drafted will be ready to start the season anyway?
Yeah, and that's the only thing that has turned me off about this draft a little bit is the talk of, and you got to get Lane Johnson's replacement now. Lane Johnson might play 3 more years. Like, this team has immediate needs. I just hope they go more towards that.
But Bob, that's the age-old question, and we can talk about it, is do you draft for need or do you draft best available? We talk about that a lot.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Dean in Mount Airy's been holding on for a long time, wanting to talk Sixers and NFL draft. Dean, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, what's going on, Bob?
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, one of the things I would do, I forgot about Sunday's game. So I put that behind me and moved to this game. And what I would do if I was Nick Nurse, I would move, put the game plan inside out, which means make Joel play inside and bring that ball on the outside to the other players.
So you would have Embiid more in the post area is what you're saying?
Right. I would put him on the post and make him work that inside. And then you got Maxey who can shoot, and you got other players who can shoot from the outside. I forget his name, but he's like number 40. He's been playing with good energy when we played against the Heat, and he scored 5 3-point shots.
Yeah, Nick Batum. Yeah,
I would put him in and give him a chance.
Well, he's been getting minutes, and Dean, thanks a lot for the call. He's been getting minutes. Nick Batum, although he's been coming off the bench, he's been getting you upwards 25 minutes or more a game. So I hear the talk all the time about Embiid needs to get low more. I'm not an analytics guy. I don't look at all those advanced analytics stuff. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe he's the highest percentage post-up player in the league. He does get down there. I understand what you're saying, but I have no problem with Joel Embiid's offensive game right now. I don't think that's one of my main concerns, Bill.
No, not at all. And I think Joel Embiid through 2 games has done enough that this team could win games if they just got a little bit more from their supporting cast than they have.
Yeah, that's going to be a big thing tomorrow night. Are we going to see I don't know, plays run for Tobias Harris. Now, Tobias Harris, a lot of times will have Josh Hart covering him. Josh Hart, 6'5", maybe 6'6". I lean more towards the 6'5" part. You have in Tobias Harris at 6'9", legitimate. There's been times where he's gotten the ball and he's backed down Josh Hart and hit that little turnaround 15-footer. Not enough. He's missed some. His open three looks haven't been great. He's hit a couple, but he's also, when he misses, sometimes misses bad. Still not finishing well enough for me around the basket is Tobias Harris, but somehow, some way, you have to get those secondary players going. To me, you got to get out and run more. You have to, and that's all comes down to rebounding. You can't run when you're taking the ball out of the basket. You have to rebound when New York misses a shot. I would look to get out and run. The problem with that is your best runner is Tyrese Maxey, and he usually finishes around the basket. He's not looking to kick out. So concentrated effort on Nick Nurse's part to get the secondary guys involved. Is that something you think, Bill, that he should look for tomorrow night, or should it just come more naturally from those guys?
Probably a little bit of both, Bob. I mean, that's probably not the answer you're looking for, but probably a little bit of both. It's, you just look at some of these players, and, yeah, you got to get more. And one of the things that frustrated me in Game 1 was that Tobias Harris played the most fourth-quarter minutes of anybody. He played almost 10.5 minutes. Nico Batum only played a little over 5 minutes in the fourth quarter, which I said, I don't understand that. You go back to the Miami Heat game, Batum played a lot more down the stretch. Well, Nick Nurse was listening to the show.
Of course.
You go to the fourth quarter the other night, Nico Batum played the entire fourth quarter. So I know Dean just mentioned, hey, get Batum more involved. He played all 12 minutes in the fourth quarter, but Batum didn't give you much in that fourth quarter. 0 for 1 from the field, took 1 3-point attempt, missed it. So, look, he's trying to get these players involved, but if they're not going to deliver when they're on the court, I don't know what to do. But as we're sitting here talking about all this, they had that game won, Bob.
They did. Man,
game
I
won.
still feel the frustration coming out of you. Okay, when we get back, and everybody in line, hold on, because we're going to go to you. I want to talk to you about this, and I want to hear your feelings on it. To me, Nick Nurse has done a coaching job that is specifically geared towards what do you do to stop the Knicks? Now that you're home, now that you're down 0-2, and you've kind of figured that out, does the coaching philosophy change in that, okay, I'm there with what I'm doing against the Knicks. What do I do for the Philadelphia 76ers moving forward? It's a talking point. I want to get in with you, 610-632-0975. Bill Colarulo is here all day with us until 2 o'clock closing time. Bob Cooney, 97.5 Middays. Hey, welcome back. 11 o'clock on this Wednesday, hump day. How about that? One more day of Ray Dunn here before he takes his little West Coast excursion. What are you doing this weekend? Oh, I don't know. I thought I had nothing to do. I think I'll just go out to San Diego for a few days and catch a couple Phillies games and stuff like that. So that's where Ray is going to be. Big talk today, obviously. Your 76ers down 2-0 in the series to the New York Knicks. They get together again tomorrow night at 7:30 down at the Wells Fargo Center. Bill Colarulo, who is with us today, will be down with me and D. Lineham at the Wells Fargo Center tomorrow night, right by the Bet Rivers Bar, I call it, right at section 106, 107. So we'll be out there from 6 to 7:30 to take you right in to the 76ers game. A lot of people want to talk about what are your reactions now? You've had a day to sit on it. You've heard us talk about it. You've talked about it with us. But a day later, 24 hours later, how are you feeling? Carlos in New Jersey isn't feeling all that great. Carlos, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, guys. How you doing today?
Hey, buddy.
I listen, as a fan, if you're a true fan, you have to remove your emotion from the equation, and you have to look at things objectively. I'm looking at Joel Embiid play the first two games, and it is obvious he's maybe 60, maybe 70%. He's really laboring. He's really struggling. And yet his production was pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Maxey's production was phenomenal. I mean, the guy's first year running the offense in the playoffs, and he's averaging well over 30 points a game. That's, if you expected Maxey to put up 34 and 35, that's just not realistic, but he did it. So the production from those two guys, in spite of one being very inexperienced and the other being really banged up, has been phenomenal. But if you look at the rest of the team, what I see is a team that does not play hard on defense. They do not rebound hard. They do not block out, and that's coaching. And
I thought it was egregious game one, Carlos, but I thought it was a lot better game two going against the leading team.
It was better, a lot better. It was better.
I think he gave up 20. Wait a second. Hold on. They were out-rebounded by 20 rebounds in game one and by 2 in game two. So I think it was a lot better.
No, I understand. You're going based on statistics. If you look at the eye test, there's too many possessions where one or two players on the Sixers are not boxing out at all. And you get away with it sometimes because the shot goes in or somebody else gathers the rebound, but they're just not doing what they're supposed to be doing on defense. And they're, as a result, they're not getting easy baskets, which maybe a Nick Batum or a Oubre or any of those other players might pick up a loose ball rebound and be able to turn, either start a fast break or pick it up on the offensive end and get an easy basket.
I hear. Thanks, Carlos. I appreciate it. I'm sorry. That's not where my mind went. The defense, it's been okay. I like it. I looked at it and said, "Oh my God, their defense sucks." To say their rebounding only improved a little bit in game two, I thought it was the major story of game two.
I agree with you. I mean, they gave up 23 offensive rebounds in game one. They got that down to 12 in game two, which was huge. When we knew, like you just mentioned, the Knicks coming in had the number one offensive rebounding in terms of percentage in the NBA this year. So I thought that was a great job that they did with the offensive rebounding. The defense, they held them to, up until that final 101 points.
Yeah.
So it was, that's not where my concern lies. I need some secondary scoring. That's what I need.
Carlos had a good point, though, in saying also that defensively, if guys do something better, you're going to get some breakouts. You're going to get some fast breaks. All of that. I agree. I agree with them there. You have to look for some junk baskets to get those secondary guys started. And if it's outlet passes, if it's, hey, Joe, when you grab a rebound, instead of looking to hand it off to Tyrese or Kyle Lowry, look up court first. Maybe, just maybe, because a Kelly Oubre, a Nick Batum is covering a guard in Kyle Lowry, and maybe they're up at the top of the key. Maybe a leak out is there, and maybe to look for that a little bit more. But, Carlos, great point on that, but I don't see his point about the rebounding didn't improve. I thought it was the number one improvement that Nick Nurse made from game one.
I agree, and what surprised me is that it improved without them having to put Reed and Embiid on the court at the same time.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the things that was being floated between 1 and 2 was, do they go with Reed and Embiid together? They didn't have to. They did a good job of boxing out and making sure that they got those secondary chances eliminated for the Knicks. Look, if they just got a little bit more scoring from Kelly Oubre, 2 or 3 3-pointers a game from Buddy Hield, they're winning both of these games.
Yeah. I labeled it yesterday, Bill, as coulda, shoulda games. Coulda won game 1, shoulda won game 2. Does that make you feel better coming home knowing you were on the, you were away in and I know you don't feel good about it because I just said, does it make you feel better? You made a face. But does it put you in a decent spot knowing you're not coming home after having been blown out in 2 games or just totally mismatched?
Here's why I'm having a hard time feeling good. Because Jalen Brunson still has not had a great game. 22 points in the first game, 24 points in game 2. And it wasn't as if you could look at game 2 and say, oh, well, Joel and Tyrese played really badly. No, Joel and Tyrese had great games, and Brunson hasn't had a great game yet. Now, a lot of that's because they've been focused on him on the defensive side of the ball. But to me, I don't feel good because I'm still expecting the Knicks to win a game because of Jalen Brunson, and that hasn't happened yet. So now if that does happen, where are we getting these 4 other wins? I'm not confident. I know they could be 2-0 the other way, but they're not. And now there's a lot of pressure on the Sixers in game 3.
There is. Chris in Delaware is worried about someone specifically. Chris, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Well, sure. Embiid, if he's playing like Carlos said, 50-60%, he doesn't have the lift and the ups and the movement in order to play down low. That's why he's hanging around, the free throw, the 3-point line, the perimeter at the end of the game because he's got nothing left out. Now, it's great. He's a warrior, but that's the problem. So they need to do something to compensate for that. And my idea was, why don't they play him with Paul Reed more often? That defensive toughness down low, that extra rebounding down low. And then, Embiid is freer to play more in the mid-range and the outside.
So Embiid's offensive game has you worried, Chris?
Well, not necessarily the offensive game. I'm talking about, the toughness and the things that he needs to do physically down low that he's not able to do with his knee at 50-60%. He's out there gutting it out, yeah.
Right.
But he doesn't have the physical ability to do it off the push, off that knee.
Yeah, that's a good point. Chris, thanks so much. Here's something that hit me, and it kind of goes to what Chris said. When you look at a box score and you see Joel Embiid scored 34 points, do you care how he scored them?
I don't.
And I'm not being, Chris, believe me, I am not going after you at all. It's an honest thought that came into my mind. Do you need Joel Embiid to score more down low because what? It opens everything else up offensively more? I don't. They haven't really done that. He posts up. There's times where he gets down low and he posts, and they give him the ball and he does his one-on-one thing. The way they use him more is the high pick and roll, obviously, as we see a lot of times with Tyrese Maxey. And as I said the other night, second half, he rolled an awful lot. So it wasn't like he was afraid of going into the lane. He can also pop, and he's a great outside shooter. When he pops off of that pick and roll, you look at him, and he's an open three-point shot. I don't mind him shooting that shot at all. There's been maybe no times, maybe 1 or 2 times in this series where I said, that's not a good shot when he shot a 3. If he's open, I want him. I don't mind him at all shooting that 3. So I don't know. It is an honest question, Bill. Do you mind how Joel Embiid goes about getting his 30-plus points a game?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. And I think that some people, because they know Joel, he's a big, he shouldn't be shooting threes. He shouldn't be taking those long-range jumpers. He's good at it. I mean, he makes them.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with him not being down low and being that traditional big that you're used to seeing from the 90s. That's not who he is.
No.
Why take that part of his game away from him? He's a very good shooter. So I'm fine with it. I keep going back to it. I'm like a broken record. Joel has done enough for this Sixers team to win both these games. He's done enough. And I know you look at the fourth quarter of game 2, and he didn't have any rebounds. He didn't play that great in the fourth quarter. I think we also have to remember, in addition to the knee injury, in addition to the eye injury, he's still working himself back into game shape, and he's playing a lot of minutes. He needs help. He needs help around him. He got it from Tyrese Maxey. Maxey and Embiid did enough. You need more from your other players. You can't – you just mentioned it. They had, 69 of the 101 points came from Embiid and Maxey?
That's a good number, isn't it, Ray? 69.
They need more.
That's amazing. Yeah, you're right.
What's not a good number is 4 points from Kelly Oubre. And I like Kelly Oubre a lot.
Sure.
I was so excited that Kelly Oubre was going to provide that third level of scoring on this Sixers team, that it wasn't just going to come down to Maxey and Embiid, that you were going to see Kelly Oubre, who had that streak this year, over 15 points, all those games, was averaging 20 points a game for a little bit of a stretch there. 4 points in game 2? 4?
Yeah, not good enough. You're exactly right. So the question I want to put out to everybody, my 11 o'clock question, Bill, I want to put it out to you, and I want to put it out to everyone. 610-632-0975. The question is this. We saw changes in game 1. Let me preface this first. The change in game 1 that we saw was Nick Nurse decided to go big person on Jalen Brunson. So, great move. Held him to what he like 8 for 24 shooting, something like that. I thought it was a terrific move. Game 2, I'm convinced, I wish I was in the locker room, that Nick Nurse told his players, hey, listen, you put a body on somebody and you don't take it off of them until we secure the rebound. Then you can go do what you want. I do not want to see anybody doing anything else but staying on your man when a shot is taken. They did that, except in the last minute of the game. They did that pretty well. Why Hartenstein got that rebound without somebody chopping him in the neck is beyond me. But my question is this. What's the biggest change you expect to see from the Sixers tomorrow night?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Yeah, right? Because there's a million ways you can go. As caller said, he'd like to see Paul Reed on the floor more with Joel Embiid to get physical down low. Again, I'm not disagreeing or making fun of at all. Paul Reed doesn't exude physicality to me. You know, like I don't think he's the guy you throw on the block and go, let's get physical, you know, sing the Olivia Newton-John song. You don't know who Olivia Newton-John is at all, do you?
I know the song, though.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
God rest her soul.
Yeah,
But do you have anything sticks out to you, Bill? What's the biggest change the Sixers might make for Thursday night's game?
I don't know if he'll do this because obviously Maxey and Embiid need to get going early as well. But I would like to see them to design some plays early to get Oubre and Tobias in the game. Get them scoring. Get Oubre some confidence early. Get him design some plays that maybe he nets a couple of baskets early, and now you can start to make them worry about Oubre. Because as much as it's great that Maxey scored all those points to start the first quarter, Embiid scored all those points to start the first quarter in game 1, it doesn't really get your other players in a rhythm. Maybe let's change it up a little bit. Let's get some of these other guys going early, and then maybe we get Embiid late.
That's a real good one. Let me propose to you this, and I don't think many people would agree with me on it, but I'm putting it out there for thought. We mentioned, both of us, about the defense that has been played on Jalen Brunson. And the choice of Nick Nurse was to throw length at him, whether it's Nick Batum, whether it's Tobias Harris, whether it's Kelly Oubre. And Tobias Harris, for all the knocks that we get, we have to applaud him. He played great defense against Jalen Brunson down the stretch the other night. You've lost both of the games. It's a great strategy, and you have taken Jalen Brunson out of it, but you've lost both games. Any thought to saying, you know what, let's just go to a more typical defense? Kyle, Tyrese Maxey, you guys are on Brunson. Do what you can, but we need the other guys, the Oubres, the Tobias Harrises. We need their legs fresh for offense. Would you give any thought to that?
You and I actually spoke about this before game 1, saying, look, even if Jalen Brunson drops over 30 a game, where's the other scoring coming from? Well, because they've left guys like Hart and DiVincenzo open and Bogdanovich at the end of the game, that's where the other scoring is coming from. So it's not a bad idea to say, look, let Brunson do his thing. We're going to take away everybody else, and you guys aren't going to be able to keep up. It's not a bad strategy, but I keep saying it. Their strategy worked in game 2. They won that game in game 2, Bob. They were up when it mattered. We didn't talk much about it. I mean,
that's a good point.
Kate Scott thought it was already won. You know, I mean, we thought the game was already won at the end of the game, talking about how fun the post-game show was going to be because it was over.
My friend Allah got screamed at by me, Bill. You and I talked about this before the show. Allah saying, oh, it's so nice to be 1-1, go back down the turnpike and all that. And I out loud, just like you did. I think you said to Bridget.
I did.
You said it to your fiancée, Bridget. I yelled it out. My wife from the bedroom's like, what? I said, nothing, never mind. I was like, no, don't say that. But
I mean, because if you look at it, and we're talking changes they should make in game 3, but you look at game 2, even before the egregious missed foul calls, even before missing the timeout, the Jalen Brunson three, are you kidding me? Hits the front of the rim. I mean, that was a terrible shot. At the end, it was almost a shot clock violation, if I remember correctly. And then it bounces in. I mean, they had that game won. So what they did in game 2 worked. They limited the offensive rebounds. They limited the Knicks. So I don't know if I want to change that much.
Question that was in the back of my mind to be a secondary one. Or is it that they played so well enough to win, except for those last 27 seconds, that anything, and that your advantage grows because you're coming back to the Wells Fargo Center? Whether it's crowd, familiarity, whatever it is, you have to have some kind of advantage at home. Now, I got a text from a guy in the NBA last night that said, is Philly ready? Oh, no, it wasn't a guy in the NBA. It was somebody else. I believe a season ticket holder. Is Philly ready? For what? No, for the influx of New York Knicks fans at Wells Fargo Center on Thursday night.
No way, Bob.
No way the city's not ready, or no way it's happening?
No way the Knicks are taking over the Wells Fargo Center.
I'm with Ray on this one.
You think so?
I'm a little worried. I'll be honest with you.
Now, the guy that texted me is very well into secondary markets and reading all of that and everything. He comes with an informed mind when it comes to this. And he said, be ready.
Now, is this because they lost game 2? Is it because fans have kind of they're down 2-0? If it was a 1-1 series, we think there would have been a lot more Sixers fans in the building?
I don't even know if it's that. I think, 6 years of the playoffs going the way they have, I think a lot of people might have oh, yeah, I'm not going to take those first-round tickets and use them. And I think that New York Knicks fans haven't had something to be excited about in a long time, and it's not that far of a trip. And you can take Friday off of work, go down to Philadelphia, and have your voice be heard.
And now you're changing my mind a little bit, too, because not only that, I'm sure the tickets, even if they're marked way up for the Wells Fargo Center, are going to be cheaper than they are at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And
I have a real I have past experience with it when the Sixers got good and I was covering the team. God, New York Knicks fans really travel well.
They do.
And then this guy texted me last night, and I was like,
Sixers fans. If the Sixers fans are out there listening right now and you have your tickets up on the secondary market, pull them off. Pull them off. We need the Sixers fans in the building for Game 3. This is a pivotal game. We need our fans in the building. And look, all the money you would make from maybe selling it, you could make up for it by coming and saying hello to me and Bob. Since we're doing the pregame show.
That's right. Me, you, and D will be doing pregame. Bet Rivers. It's right at section 106, 107. There's a bar area there. We'll be right behind it. So feel free to come on by, say hello. We're going to have a lot of fun with that tomorrow night. Bill, before we go to break here, confidence level for tomorrow night. Is it kind of just middle of the road, or where are we?
Now, I'm just trying to urge everybody to come to the game. So I'm gonna take
that's not a glowing.
I'm gonna take a page.
Let's go Sixers.
I'm gonna take a page from Bob's book, Ray. The team that scores more points will win the game.
Oh, great!
That's what I'm.
Now I got two of you doing this now.
No, I make it. No, I know.
No, you didn't.
I'll tell you my true feelings on it. I'm a little bit nervous. My confidence level isn't high because I am expecting the Jalen Brunson game to come. I'm waiting for him to have that game where he goes off. You look at his numbers in Game 1 and Game 2, and even though there's been a concerted effort to shut him down, he's missing so many shots that I'm waiting for the game where he just goes off and he puts up 35, 40 points, and we're saying, man, the Sixers would have won that game if it wasn't for Jalen Brunson. That's my fear.
I'll tell you what. I have not put out any predictions about the series, except to say last week when Bill and I were together, I said to him that my concern factor was real high. I put it 4.5 out of 5 when it came to the New York Knicks. I will make this prediction for the series. I think they have him figured out, Bill. I think they have Jalen Brunson figured out a little bit defensively that I don't think he's going to get that game. I
hope you're right.
I hope I'm right, too. I could very well be wrong. I love how they figured out how to play him from behind. When he beats them off of the dribble, the play's not over still. They've gotten a lot of blocks, a lot of taps from behind. Yeah, I do think they have him figured out a little bit. So it scares me. I'm right with you. I know what you're saying. I'm just wondering if maybe they have him figured out a little bit. Here's the hope. So what's your thoughts? Do the Sixers need a big change for Thursday night? If they do, what do you believe it is? Bill made a great. He said, why would you have to change? You had that game won, except for the last 27 seconds, some bad calls by the non-calls by the referee, maybe a bad decision not to call a timeout there by Kyle Lowry. That game's yours. Bill, that's a great, great point. Maybe you don't change anything. But if you would, if you had something to change for tomorrow night, what would it be? 610-632-0975. When we get back, more Sixers Knicks talk. I want to dive a little bit more into the NFL draft for the Philadelphia Eagles. Where might they go? Maybe we'll get into some specific players and if they should move up, who may be available to them. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Midday show here, 97.5 The Fanatic. Hope you're having a great Wednesday, everybody. Hope you've recovered a little bit from the Sixers game, and that's what we're talking about today. Where do you feel? Where are you in your feelings? How do you feel about tomorrow night? Have you been able to put maybe Monday night behind you a little bit? It's funny when we start talking certain subjects to watch Bill's face. I can just see the frustration still inside of you after that game, and you're probably like 90% of our audience that it's hard to let go of that game.
It is hard, and our YouTube audience asked a question, and maybe you know the answer to this, Bob, is, well, what's the point of the L2M report? Yeah, what's the point if nothing comes of it? There's no disciplinary action done. Obviously, they're not changing the outcome of the game. So what's the point of it?
I don't know. I saw that also, and I was like, yeah, that's a good point. If I'm a referee, if I'm the head of referees, it's probably something I'd look to get rid of. I don't hear NFL officials, Major League Baseball, none of those guys come out and critique their own performance the day after the game. I don't know. I'll tell you what, I'm going to send out a text message to try to find out why. Excuse me, got a little cough there. But it is strange. There was a lot of happenings yesterday. Usually L2Ms come out in the morning, early in the morning. Yesterday's didn't come out till 5 o'clock-ish. It seemed to me like there was a lot of discussion going on.
Yeah.
About what was what.
Now, and am usually a proponent of don't let the referees dictate the ending of a game. I hated the holding call against James Bradbury in the Super Bowl, not only because I'm an Eagles fan, it seemed to me like a ticky-tacky call that late in the game. I didn't love the offensive foul call in the women's NCAA tournament. I'm forgetting who it was on.
Yeah, it was on your girl, Gabby Marshall.
Right, Leah Edwards with the screen.
Yeah.
Marshall trying to get on the screen.
So I didn't love that either because you don't want to see these ticky-tacky type calls change the outcome of a game. It just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But when you're talking about 3 missed calls that not only change the outcome of a game, but literally completely turn it on its head, to take a game that was pretty much over where the Sixers won, and then you missed the timeout. Okay, we'll forgive you for that one. You missed the jersey hold. All right, maybe you're not in position to see it. And then you miss him getting, quote-unquote, mugged, as Stephen A. Smith, a Knicks fan, called it. That completely turned the outcome on its head. You don't want to see a referee take over a game that way either.
No, it is a shame. Like, it sucks. And Bill, you were around the Eagles on the sidelines, on the inside with the Eagles. You get to know how people do their jobs. I've stated this many times before. I've spent days and hours with referees up there watching film with them, getting to know how they work and what they do, how they do the way they do it. It's why yesterday somebody said to me, it's like, oh, it's fixed. Like, they're giving away these games. If you would – the reason the L2M didn't come out till 5 o'clock yesterday, meetings started at like 8 a.m. and went that long because that's how much they care about their product. Not defending themselves, but coming to an agreement of how it should be presented. These guys, let me just tell you, and I'm not taking sides one way or the other, you would be amazed at the amount of work that goes into, and I'm only talking NBA referees because I haven't hung out with NFL officials or anything like that, at the amount of work that goes into just refereeing a game. When I was on the road, many times, go back to my hotel, go through the lobby, there's one of the officials from that game on their computer, writing up a report on the phone with someone higher than them, talking about different plays of that game. There's so much that goes into it. Nobody, I can say this, feels worse about what happened the other night than the referees that were involved and the front office that oversees these referees. So it's a shame. Human factor is going to come into all games, whether it's players, coaches, refs. This time it didn't come out very good for the 76ers, for sure.
It didn't, and we talked about it early in the show. You can't ignore the fact that Kyle Lowry should have called timeout because then the ball would have got advanced to half court, almost making it impossible. Even if the inbound, something similar happens, the chance of them getting down the court and hitting the three the way they did is a little bit more slim. It's just there were so many factors that had to go into play for them to lose that game, and it's just unfortunate because how great would we feel right now in a 1-1 series with the game tomorrow at the Wells Fargo Center?
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. How do I put this? I thought it was going to be a really tough series. It has been a really tough series. I feel okay for tomorrow night. Right now, I feel okay. I think the Sixers can win. I think there's better than 50% chance that they win tomorrow night. I love what you said, and I told you during the break. Maybe they don't have to change much of anything. They should have won that game playing the way they played. Maybe you just need another effort like that. We'll see if they can get it. You're talking 69 points out of 2 players. Like you said, you need more from the other guys also. Keith in Long Island, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's up, Keith? Doing great.
Going to the game tomorrow, Bob. I think a big change we can make is trying Mo Bamba in Paul's minutes. He gives us the length against those big Knicks centers. Defensively, rim protection. I think it's worth a try. I think that Paul's a bit undersized to match up against Mitchell Robinson and Hartenstein.
I'll be honest, Keith. I haven't really noticed when he's in the game. Are they taking advantage of Paul Reed down low when he's in the game?
Well, I believe so. He's getting beat on the board. It just seems like he's getting a lot of fouls. He's not giving us very effective. I think that Mo can give you something.
Okay, I appreciate that, Keith. Thanks for the phone call and have fun at the game tomorrow night. I hesitate in a response when we get phone calls or we have discussions with friends when a talking point of change goes to Ricky Council, KJ Martin, Mo Bamba. That's way down the road for me, Bill. And I could be wrong. Mo Bamba to me is a specialist. I don't know, other teams inbounding the ball with 8 seconds to go in a half. Yeah, I'll put him in for defense if they want to try to drive the lane, get a block shot here or there. He's a playoff specialist to me. The other guys, same thing. If I can use him spottily somewhere, maybe. But have you gone down that road?
In game one, I guess it was more noticeable because Embiid got hurt, so he missed a lot in that second quarter. Because in game one, Paul Reed played, 11 and a half minutes? He only played 8 minutes, 54 seconds in game two.
Is that what it was?
They were only -6 with him on the court. Game one was a little bit worse, I guess, because they were, -21 when Embiid was off the court. But to your point, I would have felt better if there was a Andre Drummond that would come off the bench. And, and Daryl Morey did talk about at the trade deadline that they wanted to bring in a better big. There just wasn't a market available because answer behind Joel, no, but I don't think Mo Bamba is going to fare much better. It would have been nicer if they had a better backup option. They just couldn't get one. They tried.
I reached out to a reporter that covers the league, and the reason there is L2M reports, and Chris McClune was asking us on our YouTube page, why do they even have them? It's a great question, and you put it out there too also, Bill. The commissioner likes having them. The commissioner likes to be out up front open. This was a reporter that told me this. I assume the referees and those that are running, that are the higher ups of the referees, I don't think they like them for most times. I mean, there could be plenty of times where it comes out and they say, yeah, this call that you're questioning, the referee was right. That happens a lot, but we don't talk about it. Okay, no. The referee was right. In this instance, yeah, there's a lot of talk going on around him. So there's the answer for our YouTube people, for everybody else. The commissioner of the league likes to have them out there for the people.
And I keep going back to it. They are human. The referees are human. They're going to make human errors. It happens in every sport. It happens in every industry. It's just what made this one so egregious to me was the multitude of errors on the same play. I mean, you're literally talking about a 5-second span where multiple things were missed. And I would have even been okay with the hold of Maxey's jersey. Maybe they just missed it. But how they missed him getting knocked to the ground, slapped, falls to the ground. Because I think you may have talked about this yesterday, though. If that wasn't a foul, then it was a travel on Maxey.
Well, you can fall in the NBA. It's funny because I called somebody for clarification last night. In college basketball, high school, if you fall, it's a travel because your feet have left their spot. In the NBA, you can fall with possession of the ball as long as you don't roll, move your body there, and it is not a travel. Because I said the same thing yesterday. So I wanted to get clarity on that last night. So there's a lot going on here. I got a text from an NBA person during this show that I read to you that said, look, yeah, the referees, that was tough. But you can't tell me if somebody came into your Bills neighborhood and tried to get that offensive rebound that Hartenstein got late in the game that you wouldn't have bit his arm off. Yeah, I think 9 out of 10 of us would have seen that guy rumbling down the lane and tried to put him on his ass or something. Like, that is egregious. The Sixers were egregious at that moment also.
If you watch the replay, in addition to being frustrated at the non-calls, it did look like most of the players for the Sixers on the court thought the game was over. They almost looked like they let up.
Yeah.
On that inbound, they're not really moving around. They almost look like they also, like the announcers thought, we're going back 1-1.
Yeah, it was that was after you've done it all game. All game long, you saw it. Batum and Embiid holding guys, arm bars, holding guys away from the basketball when it was shot. And then on this instance, like, you didn't even look. Embiid kind of moved out of the way. If you watch it, the ball's going up. Embiid moves to his left, and Hartenstein actually comes down to his right and grabs the ball. Batum and Harris standing there. Nobody grabbed the body. Nobody did anything there. That upsets me as much as anything. Charles and Delran, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's up, Charles?
Yes, good morning. How are you guys doing? You know, I've been listening on the radio all day yesterday and part morning today, and I'm kind of annoyed with the calls, but it's beside that.
The referee's calls or the listener's calls?
Huh?
The referee calls or the listener calls?
No, I'm talking about the people that calling the shows.
Okay.
Stop complaining and worrying about referees. They're going to make mistakes. They're human. My thing is, okay, you didn't get the call. You didn't get the foul. You didn't get the timeout. What did you do in those 27 seconds to stop them from doing what they did? If all somebody had to do was get the Hartenstein rebound, you had 3 numbnuts standing there looking. It's not. It's basically simple math. When you go out there to play, you don't ease up until you hear that horn. You don't assume anything. You play till you get a buzzer. And that's the problem with a lot of the 76ers players. I can't fault Embiid. I can't fault Maxey. Those other guys need to step up. Do your job.
I love it, Charles. Thanks so much for the passion. Thanks so much for the call. And the great way that you use one of my favorite words, numbnuts.
That was great.
Perfect way to put it. Way to go, Charles. Okay, how you feeling? How do you feel going into tomorrow night? Has Monday kind of gotten behind you a little bit? I understand it was at the forefront of your emotions yesterday. Maybe it still is today. Maybe you've moved on a little bit that you can look more towards tomorrow night's Game 3. Let us know how you feel, 610-632-0975. This is Middays. Bob Cooney along with Bill Colarulo today, 97.5 The Fanatic. here on Midday. So glad you could join us. Hope to God you're having a great Wednesday out there. Hope you didn't run into the unbelievable amount of traffic that I ran into today. I can't get used to it, Bill. I can't get used to Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Traffic is awful. Monday and Friday, clear as a bell. Most people might be on Ray's schedule, where on Fridays they just, I'm going to head out to the West Coast for the weekend.
I hope so, because I'm coming back in on Friday, so maybe there won't be any traffic.
No, you should be good. Coming from where you're coming from, being as we're neighbors, you should be good on Friday to be getting in.
Yeah, today was a mess, though.
My wife mentioned to me today, or last night, I showed her the street that you lived on as we were passing it by, and she said, why don't you guys carpool? And I just looked at her and I said, because we're not 16. Like, can you imagine two grown adults like, what time are you going to be ready? Like,
me and Tyrone may have to carpool on. Actually, probably not. He's coming from Bordentown, but on Sunday we're going all the way to the Dover Raceway.
That's right.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah, that should be fun. So I just heard I'm so bad at emails or whatever, but tomorrow, if you get a chance, it looks like from 3 to 5, I believe, I'm going to be down at Chicky and Pete's. So come on down right by the arenas. Come on by. Michelob Ultra is sponsoring us there tomorrow, so we got a little get-together with them. So I'll be down there. Come on down. Maybe we'll have I have to work later at night, so maybe I'll have a soda with you. Wink, wink. But Michelob Ultras are like sodas. Like, they're very light.
It's like water.
Right? Yeah.
Great tasting beverage.
Absolutely.
I might have one. I'm on my way down to South Philly anyways, so I could.
Are you going to stop on by?
Maybe I'll stop on by and say hello.
Well, wait, tomorrow's Thursday, so you're not going to be here Friday?
That literally nothing a part of that sentence said that I wasn't going to be here Friday. It just
you
said I
said
was
you're going to be on the way
Philly.
to the airport.
No, I said I was heading my way down South Philly.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I didn't bring it up this time.
Are you here on Friday?
I guess you got to check the schedule. Maybe check your email again.
Well, if you're flying on Thursday.
I never said I was flying. You said I was flying.
Are you flying on Thursday?
I don't have to answer any of these questions, Bob.
I don't know.
So
this doesn't make sense to me, Bill.
Bringing it back to sports for a second. The Devontae Smith signing from last week, 3 years, $75 million extension. We knew was going to look really good when some of these big wide receiver contracts get announced. Well, Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Detroit Lions just got a 4-year, $120 million deal with $77 million guaranteed. That's being reported by Ian Rappaport. That Devontae Smith deal is going to look real good when all these deals start to come.
Yeah, that deserves a golf clap for Howie Roseman and getting that deal done. So he goes for $30 million a year. That's pretty interesting. So
$30 million. Now, look, you got to see the final numbers because the devil's in the details, as they say. But yes, the average value $30 million for Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Wow, that's not bad. All right, so we're getting a lot of reaction today of how people are feeling with the 76ers tomorrow night going Game 3. Have you been able to flush those feelings from Game 2 out of your system? Some haven't, some have. But wherever you are, let us know. 610-632-0975. You can call us or text us there. And we do have some text messages on the board. Do we not, Ray?
Yes, we do. We do have some texts to look at. So let's get into some of the 76ers conversation here. We got a texter from Philadelphia. When you go talking about changes you want to see with this team, the only change that needs to be made is a simple one. Have to sprinkle in Payne and Counsell during the non-Embiid minutes. The energy and toughness will balance out the staleness of offense when Joel is resting.
There it is again. Like, we're going to it makes me cringe a little bit, but is there something to that? Embiid's off the floor. You're not getting much, although it wasn't bad in Game 2 when he was off the floor. I don't think they had all that much trouble scoring points. But do you go for some energy, Bill, when Embiid's not on the floor instead of staying status quo?
I don't know. I mean, maybe after Game 3. I would almost look at Game 3 and say, let's roll out a similar game plan to what we did in Game 2 because it did technically work outside of the last 30 seconds that we don't need to get back into and rehash. But if something bad happened in Game 3, maybe we could start blowing it up and saying, hey, let's bring Ricky Counsell in. I am surprised, though, that Campaign's not getting more minutes. 0 minutes in Game 2, 2.5 minutes in Game 1. I thought he was a big acquisition when they made the trade. I thought they were planning on utilizing him a lot in the playoffs, and they just haven't.
No, it is. It's. I don't want to say It is surprising. You're right. I am surprised the campaign hasn't gotten more run. Nick Nurse has really diminished the bench a lot. It's pretty much worked. You had a shoulda, coulda. Up in Madison Square Garden against a 2 seed. You're a 7 seed. It's hard to question the button pushed in this series so far when you describe those 2 games as such. They could be up 2-0 in this series. Things go a little bit differently. But it's funny. I was thinking of you yesterday, Bill, when this popped into my head. We now have a single doink, which was Jalen Brunson's shot to pull them within 1 or 2 the other night.
The double doink.
We have a double doink in football in which Cody Parkey double doinked for the Chicago Bears and missed, so the Eagles advanced in the playoffs. And then you have a quadruple doink when obviously Kawhi Leonard makes that shot against the Sixers. Like, are we just kind of like, I don't know, is there a curse on Philadelphia sports, Bill? Plain and simple. Is that what it is over the last 5 years, that there's just a curse on Philadelphia, maybe even more than 5 years, that there's a curse on this Philadelphia sports base?
Well, the double doink was in our favor. Right?
That is true. The double doink.
Double doink was in our favor, but then the NFL gods came back and got us because the next week's when Alshon Jeffrey had the ball go through his hands.
Yeah.
Still bothers me. Is it still the Willie Penn curse? I know that we've gotten over the hump a couple of times, but Ray may not even know what the Willie Penn curse is.
I know what the Billy Penn curse is.
So I thought, and maybe this is why they won the World Series in 2008 and why we won a Super Bowl in 2017. When they built the Comcast Center, they put a mini Willie Penn at the top. Did you know that?
Oh, that's right. I did remember that.
So maybe we finally beat that Willie Penn curse because that was a real thing for a while.
I know a lot of people were bothered by that.
I think I covered something on the roof of the
Probably
Wells
them.
Fargo Center.
Oh, Wells Fargo.
Oh, the Globetrotters. Didn't the Globetrotters play a game on the roof of the Wells Fargo Center or something?
The Comcast Center or the Wells Fargo Center? I'm talking about the new building.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're talking about the building. I was thinking of the Wells Fargo Center. But, yeah, I think the Globetrotters played on top of the Wells Fargo Center at some point, and I think I was up there doing interviews.
Here's where I don't know the answer to, and maybe one of our listeners does or maybe Ray does. They built the second Comcast Tower. Did they move Willie Penn to that building so he is still the highest building in the city, or did the new Comcast building surpass it, and that's why we're dealing with all the problems we're dealing with?
Oh, that's good. There's some kind of curse, it seems like, going on in this city, but maybe it goes away over the next few games. How you feeling? Let us know. Give us your feelings for Thursday night, or let us know that your feelings haven't gone away from Monday because you just can't get through it yet. 610-632-0975. Some Eagles talk also when we get back about this draft, about where it may go, as Adam Schefter joined the morning show this morning. With Bill Colarulo in with us all day today, this is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Win $1,000 right now. 97.5 The Fanatics signing bonus.
That's right. Now's the time. All you have to do is text the word bank. Bank, B-A-N-K. Like Ray has a lot of bank that he can just go to the West Coast. You text that bank to 45911, or you can enter it on the Fanatic app or at 975thefanatic.com. One winner selected at random will win $1,000 in this company-wide contest. Winners will get a call from Beasley, so be sure you answer your phone. Complete rules at 975thefanatic.com. 97.5 The Fanatic signing bonus is presented by Rand Spear, the accident lawyer. Demand Rand for justice. Please never text and drive. Text BANK to 45911, and good luck.
This is Philadelphia's sports station for breaking news. Now, more with Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
That 11 o'clock hour that just passed by, well, that was brought to you by Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. So, a lot going on in the sports world. The Phillies last night, not so good. Some errors out in the field. Usually when a big winning streak is broken, and the Phillies had a 7-game winning streak, usually it's been my notice that it usually ends with a pretty good thud. That ended with a thud last night. They got a 1-0 lead early on in the game, and then wound up giving up a lot of runs because of a lot of errors. I'll tell you what. One of my favorite players is starting to become one of my favorites. Alec Boehm. I just think he looks so comfortable at the plate anymore and in the field, because he's fielding really well also. He's just, one of those young up-and-coming guys that you really like. Well, Thursday's a big night, as you very well know. And we have a lot going on here at the station to get you ready for the NFL draft, which is first round on Thursday night. You got 1,000 things you got going on as the draft goes. What all are you doing for the station as far as that?
Well, Thursday night, I'm going to be doing double duty. I'm going to have eyes on the draft, but we're going to be at the Wells Fargo Center. So
that is correct.
Doing the Sixers. And then I'm not sure what we're going to do this weekend. Obviously, I'll be hosting Saturday and Sunday morning, so we'll be recapping a lot of the draft. And we're still working on what we're going to do next week, because I think we'll probably have a full draft recap going over everything NFL draft. But, look, as Eagles fans, we're all debating what position they should take, where they should go, what player we like the most. What I'm rooting for is a run on quarterback early, because the more quarterbacks that get drafted, the more likely a good non-quarterback player gets pushed down the draft board. And you look at the draft this year, we could argue that 6 quarterbacks could go in the top 21 picks. Not a guarantee that 6 will go, but there are 6 that could theoretically go. Obviously, Caleb Williams, he's probably going 1 overall. Then you have Jaden Daniels, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix Jr. I'm rooting for all 6 of those guys to go in the first 21 picks. But for that to happen, we got to look at the teams that pick in those top 21. Are there 6 teams that need a quarterback? I'm arguing there are 8 teams, Bob.
Oh,
that could maybe take a quarterback.
Well, Chicago's going to be one of them at the first pick. Chicago will take one. Washington's going to take one. The Patriots are probably going to take one, right?
I could see the Patriots going for another Michigan quarterback.
J.J. McCarthy could be the guy.
They had a little success with the last one they drafted there, Raymond, in Tom Brady. And then you also have Drake May. Could be a guy that goes maybe to the Giants at 6.
I was wondering, do the Giants go quarterback? You think they're going to do that? One of the mocks I saw that interested me the other day had them taking Brock Bowers at 6, the Giants. I would hate to see that.
See, that wouldn't bother me because they're still going to be stuck with Daniel Jones.
Yeah, that's true. They don't have a quarterback that could get them the ball.
Here's the problem if you're the New York Giants. In my opinion, you have to take a quarterback because there's no guarantee that you will be this high in the NFL draft again. Because what we've learned about Daniel Jones is he's not a terrible quarterback. I just don't think he's a franchise quarterback. So if Brian Daboll's good coaching, because I do think he's a good coach, you're 8-9. You're 7-10.
Yeah.
You're probably not in the top 6 of the NFL draft. Now's your opportunity if you like one of these guys to take them. So I could easily see the Giants going quarterback there. Tennessee's not going to take a quarterback. They took who they take last year? I'm forgetting his name now. The guy who eats whole bananas. Will Levis. Yeah.
Will Levis. Yeah,
he eats,
I'm sorry,
he eats those whole bananas without even unpeeling them. That's strange to me.
Oh,
then
I
you
didn't see that.
The Atlanta Falcons just got Kirk Cousins, so they're not going.
No.
Chicago's picking again at 9. They're not taking a second quarterback.
Right.
The Jets. Now, that's an interesting one. I think they're in win-now mentality with Aaron Rodgers, so I don't see them doing it. They're going to need somebody eventually, but they're not going to go quarterback. But the next two, the Minnesota Vikings, they just lost Kirk Cousins. Do they go Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr.? And then the Denver Broncos. I know that's the 12th overall pick. A lot of Eagles fans are saying maybe the Eagles trade up to take. But if Denver likes one of those guys, maybe they go quarterback. Now, the opposite of the New York Giants, though, where I said they're not going to be in the top 6 again, the Broncos may have the first overall pick next year because they're just going to be they're going to be that bad. So maybe not. But then you got the Las Vegas Raiders. Are they sold on Derek Carr?
And even if they are, that's coming up soon. Derek Carr's up there a little bit. I mean, it's not like he's got 5-6 years left in him.
So, not the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm sorry. That's the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints have Derek Carr now. The Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh. I didn't hear the team that you said.
Yeah, I think I said Las Vegas Raiders. But the Las Vegas Raiders have who this year? Is it Gardner Minshew running wild in Vegas this year?
I believe that's the case, yeah.
So, but I meant to say the New Orleans Saints. Are they sold on Derek Carr? And then you have the Seattle Seahawks. Would they draft a quarterback, or are they rolling with Geno Smith for the next few years, foreseeable future?
Yeah, I don't know. Geno's. I don't know. That and he's up there too. People forget because he wasn't a starter for so long. Geno's got to be close to mid-30s now.
Yeah, so that's arguably, I could see 6 going. I think that there are probably 8 or 9 teams that could take a quarterback. And if that happens, now you figure if 6 quarterbacks go, then you would get the 16th best non-quarterback prospect. And there's also talk that a lot of wide receivers are going to go. So you're even going to push now even more good players down that draft board. That's what I'm rooting for because it's so hard to predict. You know, everyone tries to do the mock drafts. It's very difficult to predict. But the more quarterbacks that go, the better it is for the Eagles.
They're fun to look at, though. Mock drafts, all of it. It's fun. I enjoy it. I like looking at it. You learn about players that maybe you haven't seen all that much by doing. Like, I'm looking at a mock right now. It has the Eagles staying at 22 and taking Clemson cornerback Nate Wiggins. 6'2", 185. 6'2". I like the 6'2" part. That's nice. So if you had to label it, Bill, 1, 2, and 3, not what you would do. What would you put as your number 1 spot you think the Eagles will go? What do you think, if not that, number 2, if not that, number 3? Where do you think the Eagles are going to go?
I think first and most likely would be offensive line. I think that's probably – I know that fans, it's not going to make them happy because they're basically redshirting this guy. But I think you can draft a very good offensive lineman at 22. That compete to be your starting right guard and then eventually grow into the right tackle position. And even if he doesn't beat out Tyler Steen for that right guard position, this team needs some depth along that offensive line. I've said this before. Extremely lucky. If you look at the last 2 seasons, they haven't had a lot of injuries along that line. That is not the norm in the NFL. Offensive linemen go down all the time. So in addition to drafting Lane Johnson's future replacement, drafting a guy that maybe could start for you at right guard, you also are drafting a guy that hopefully has versatility that he could fill in along that offensive line if, in fact, you have some injuries. So that's where I think number 1, and it makes the most sense to what Howie Roseman does. Second, speaking of Howie Roseman, is I could see him going defensive line. Taking an edge rusher, because that's the position since he took over in 2010 and you eliminate the 2015 draft that Chip Kelly ran, that's the position he's taken the most in the first round is edge rusher. So I could see them definitely sticking to their principles there as well, saying we don't know what we have at the edge rushing position. They took Nolan Smith last year. They're hoping he takes that leap, But if not, you'd have Nolan Smith, Bryce Huff, Josh Sweat's on the final year of his deal.
Yep.
So you could see them going edge. And then I would say I don't think they go corner in the first round. Howie Roseman's never drafted a corner in the first round. So I think that would be third. I think that's very unlikely. Offensive line or defensive line, I would put way at the top, and then something crazy would have to happen, in my opinion, for them to venture outside of their norm.
Okay, on Kincade and Salciunas this morning, Adam Schefter joined them, and he talked about this wasn't a generality. He went deep and said, look, it looks like Seattle might be looking to get out of that 16 spot. They don't have a number 2 pick. Could the Eagles work something out? Like, he went into detail. If the Eagles, say, try to move up to 16, somewhere around there, do you think they're going for a specific player, or they're going up to get a, obviously a better player 6 picks up? And if it isn't a specific name, Bill, is it a specific?
I'm not sure that I'm buying that they're moving up the draft. I mean, look, Howie Roseman always does it. So I don't think that Howie Roseman, I know there's some reports out there, and Schefter said it as well. I don't find it shocking that maybe they're making calls, but I think it's all just based off of how the draft board falls. Because I mentioned this to you a little earlier in the show. Do you draft for need, or do you take best player available? You always go best player available. And I actually put this poll out on my social media the other day, and I couldn't believe it, that 50% of the people say draft for need, which doesn't make any sense. So I don't know if he has a particular player in mind or not. If he does, nobody knows it because they're not going to release that type of information.
Sure.
But I think he'll watch the draft board similar to the way they watched it last year, and then you saw Jalen Carter fall, and then Howie Roseman pounced. He knew, okay, here's my opportunity to go get him. So I think he's probably sitting back like he does every year, calls all these other teams to see what would it take to move up so that if that player does in fact fall, they know what they have to do to get up there. A guy I'm hoping, and again, this is no inside knowledge, but a guy I'm hoping is Troy Fautanu, the offensive lineman from Washington. I think he's the best lineman that they could go up and get. I really like his versatility. I think he's an absolute beast. I love the fact that he looks like he absolutely enjoys destroying people, which I think is always great on the offensive line.
6'4", 317 out of the University of Washington.
So I like him a lot, but I'm not buying it. Look, if he does it, I'll be shocked. I'm not buying that they're going to move up and take Quinyon Mitchell. I don't think it goes with anything that Howie Roseman has ever done as the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles. So what you're trying to sell me on, not you, but people, is a guy who's never taken a corner in the first round in his career as general manager is now going to give up a pick as valuable as the 50th overall pick in the second round to move up to draft the position he's never done in the first round. I'm having a hard time buying that.
They should move up, and I threw this name at you. He was available, and they went after. Would you be okay with it? And that's Laiatu Latu, the edge rusher from UCLA, who has been getting so much praise, called the most natural pass rusher in this draft. If they moved up and did exactly what you don't want them to do, but got this guy, would you be okay?
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually after the draft, try to stay even keel and not say, oh, man, they missed, because you just don't know.
You don't. No, you don't. I love the grades after the draft.
Yeah, you got to grade it a couple years later. We know that.
Absolutely, yeah.
This Laiatu Latu, I believe, was told he was never going to play football again, like a year ago.
Right.
And now he's going to go in the first round. But he's a pure pass rusher, a little bit limited from my understanding athletically, but makes up for it in how much he can get after the quarterback. I wouldn't be angry if they took an edge rusher. I wouldn't at all, if that's the player they have rated as the best player available. I just don't think you go and say, we need this particular position, so we're going to draft at that position. If they think Latu's the best guy available and they can move up to get him, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah, there's so many offensive linemen available where they're picking at 22. I would be shocked if they traded up to grab a specific offensive lineman. You feel the same in that way, or?
I would unless they're absolutely head over heels in love with the guy. Because in addition to quarterbacks always going high in the draft, stud tackles usually go high in the draft. So if they have a guy rated as an extremely high at that tackle position, and let's say he does fall to 12 or 16, the Philadelphia Eagles may move up to get him, because I was talking earlier about how the New York Giants may never be in the top 6 again because they're just going to be middle-of-the-road average. The Eagles know, or hopefully, are not going to be in the tops of drafts. They're not, because they're usually successful.
Right.
But they do have some ammunition because they have 2 second-round picks this year that maybe if you absolutely think this guy is a can't-miss tackle prospect at offensive line, maybe you move up to get him, because those players usually go in the top 5 of an NFL draft. So if you can steal them at 12, and all you have to do is give up your second-round pick. But for me, I would much rather, because it's a crapshoot, Bob, I'd much rather have 3 shots of the first 53 prospects. Let's take 3 players in the first 53, and if 2 of them work out, that's a massive success.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't want to move up to 16, only because people aren't sticking out all that much, as we just talked about, to me. Hey, the 12 o'clock hour is brought to you by Serviced First Heating and Air Conditioning. Get 0% financing for 72 months and a $500 rebate when you purchase a complete heating and cooling system from Service First. Learn more at ServiceFirstHVAC.com. Okay, we're just a little over a day and a half away from your Philadelphia 76ers hosting the New York Knicks. Apparently, we had a New York Knicks fan intrude in on our YouTube page, so I think they were going at him a little bit. He started I saw a comment saying, the Sixers fans crying. How can you cry when all the Sixers do is grab and hold Jalen Brunson all the time, not letting him get the ball? Look, it's going to be a physical series. It has been a physical series. That's what the playoffs are. They're a lot more physical than regular season games. I'm not blaming this Knicks fan. We've looked a lot of it saying there's a lot of pushing and pulling going on from the New York Knicks. They've kind of adopted that old Utah Jazz thing from years ago that you foul a team 60 times, the refs are only going to call 30 of it because they're not going to call it every time. I think the Knicks have kind of adopted that. Do you think the physicality of this series, Bill, has done anything against the Sixers so that they're in this 0-2 hole? Do you think it's kind of plagued them a little bit that the Knicks are such a physical team?
I mean, I guess the easy answer is yes, since they're down 0-2. But you look at Game 1 compared to Game 2, I thought maybe the Sixers struggled a little bit with that physicality in Game 1. That's why they got dominated so much on the offensive glass. But they came ready in Game 2. Like you mentioned earlier, Embiid looked like he was boxing out a lot better, throwing that forearm out there. So I felt like they were ready for that physicality more in Game 2 than they were in Game 1. And look, there's a difference, though, Bob, to being physical and fouling. I mean, you can be physical, but holding a player's jersey is not being physical. It's just not. It's a player to the ground. They're slapping their hands. It's not just being physical. That's fouling. So I do think that's the reason why the Sixers have been frustrated with the referees is they're okay with physicality. That's what the playoffs are. But there's got to be a line there where you're not just holding and grabbing everybody. And, you know, fans want to talk about how Sixers and the Sixers fans are complaining about the referees. I can't stand watching these games with the Knicks players throwing their arms up in the air like they can't believe they're being called for a foul when they're literally bear hugging a player or have an entire fist of jersey, and it's like, what? You know, what did we do? But, Bob, hold on, before we go to break, I asked earlier in the show, is there a Billy Penn statue on the new Comcast Center? Or is this the reason why we've been cursed over the last 5 years? Tristan Homan on Twitter tagged us. The Comcast Technology Center is the tallest building, and yes, there is a mini William Penn statue above it. So that can't be the Billy Penn curse anymore.
All right. I'll go with that. Tristan Homan knows a lot of fun factoids, one of our favorite listeners out there. We see him an awful lot. So, okay, that can't be the reason of it. Maybe there's other reasons. Maybe it gets turned around come Game 3. That Sixers host the Knicks tomorrow night at the Wells Fargo Center. What say you? Do you think the Sixers have to make big changes, small changes, anything, in order to get on the winning track here? Or, I thought Bill had a great point. You should have won Game 3. Why would you change a whole lot from that when you really had the Game 1, except for the last 27 seconds of the game? How are you feeling about tomorrow night? How do you still feel about Monday? Has it gone away? It was Monday, right? Was the game Monday night?
The game was
yeah,
Monday night.
Okay. I keep saying it, and then in my head I keep saying, no, that can't be right.
It's Wednesday, Bob.
But how do you feel? I mean, has it gone away? Have you got rid of it? Have you flushed that Game 2 feeling? Or is it just something you can't get rid of? Because in a lot of people, it's still festering a little bit. So let's talk about that and a whole lot more. Bill Colarulo's here for the rest of the day till 2 o'clock when we take you to the best show ever. I'm Bob Cooney. This is Middays, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Maxey Wings Most Improved. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know the
On this Hump Day Wednesday, hope you're having a real good one. Let's not forget Mother's Day's coming up, and we have a Mother's Day giveaway. All you have to do is head to 975thefanatic.com to enter for a chance to win $2,000 for Mom in the Mother's Day nationwide contest. Sponsored by Polites Florist. Make Mom's Mother's Day special with beautiful flowers from Polites Florist. Now with 3 locations to serve you. Visit Polites, that's Polites, florist.com. So, you got that going for you. We're talking about feelings today. And how are you feeling as far as that Monday night game and how it all played out? And yesterday, we're all anxiously awaiting the L2M report. And when it finally comes out about dinner time last night, it doesn't do anything to make you feel better. No, it probably even makes you feel worse. And that it came out that 2 calls were missed in the last 27 seconds that should have been called. It mentions on those reports, not in the calls that weren't made, in the calls that were called correctly, I believe it was mentioned that Nick Nurse, it was not acknowledged that he was calling a timeout and therefore was not given. To me, that says the refs didn't see him. It was quick. Nick Nurse was not real emphatic with his timeout call, and listening to Jimmy Lynam yesterday on the best show ever, he said, you got to be emphatic when you're making those calls, and that if we were to ask Nick Nurse yesterday or today maybe, he might even come out and say, yeah, I really should have run up to the ref a little bit more. But neither here nor there, for lack of a better term, an admission of guilt on the referee's part that they missed 2 calls in that last 27 seconds that certainly could have changed the game. I did say it yesterday, and I do, sorry, this is how I roll. I look inward instead of outward first. To me, referees are outward. What I would have been most upset with after the game was that Kyle Lowry didn't take a timeout when he was inbounding the ball. And, Bill, I'm glad I get a chance to talk to you about it. You played sports all your life. I played, mine too. Look, from being at so many basketball games and all of that, it's just a natural reaction. Try to get it in if you can't time out. Why Kyle Lowry forced that ball in, and it was a force in, and he had to force it because, Tyrese Maxey was being held, pushed, everything. Why didn't he just call a timeout? Were you screaming for it? How were you reacting when you were watching the play?
Yeah, I thought he was going to call a timeout. Right away is fine. If he's able to get the ball real quick.
Exactly.
Get it into Maxey, that's fine because then Maxey gets fouled, game's probably over.
And if you remember, not to interrupt you real quick, if you remember, that's what he did against Miami in the play-in game.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're able to get it in right away, that's fine. But the moment a half a second goes and you realize you don't have a clean pass in, just take the timeout.
Yeah, I just didn't get it.
But the thing is and I say this because Kyle Lowry's 38, and we talked earlier, he's been in these positions before. He's won a championship. He's supposed to be that savvy veteran. But at the same time, I said it leading up to this series that we had the advantage when it came to coaching, that Nick Nurse is the better coach than Tom Thibodeau. Nurse has to be yelling in. I mean, even if he's not getting the signal to take a timeout, how he's not screaming to Lowry and to the referee, timeout, timeout, timeout. So, yeah, I put it on Lowry because he's the savvy veteran. But this could have very easily been fixed if Nurse just makes it like Jim Lynam said. Just make it where the ref can't miss you. Take the timeout.
Yeah, I wonder. I've been wondering this since yesterday when I watched it over and over again. Do you think he was unsure whether he really wanted to take a timeout or not?
1,000%. It did not look like Nick Nurse was 100% sure what he wanted. Now, when Maxey fell to the ground after he got fouled twice, he was trying to get the timeout. They didn't give it to him because they didn't think Maxey had control, but he looked unsure. It looked like on a punt when the guy's like not sure if he wants to wave for the fair catch or not.
Yeah.
That's what Nick Nurse looked like. It was almost like he was hesitant in calling the timeout.
Yeah.
But, look, to me, looking at all 3 errors, if you want to call them errors by the refs, in the final 27 seconds, the timeout was the least of their errors. That one I put on Nick Nurse and Kyle Lowry. They should have been the ones making it clear that they wanted a timeout. It was the holding of the jersey, and then by far for me, it was when Maxey got mugged, taken to the ground. That was the one that bothers me the most.
Okay, and last night, Tyrese Maxey, he was named most improved player. of the NBA. Great honor, good for him. Congratulations has to go out to Tyrese Maxey. But he was asked by TNT as they were talking about that award. That he was asked about the ending of that Knicks game.
I gotta be strong with the ball. I gotta be able to, like, when I get on the floor, I gotta be able to hug it and call a timeout. But I mean, it is what it is. Like, it happened. We gotta let it go. I mean, we can't dwell on it now. If we dwell on it, then in a couple days we'll be down 0-3. We don't want to be down 0-3. You know what I mean? We know that we can still win this series. We got to go out there and prove that to everybody, not just ourselves. And it starts today, letting that go, and then tomorrow at practice. And then as soon as the ball goes up on Thursday, being a tougher team, not just physically but mentally as well. I mean, we still had a chance to win the game. I got my layup blocked, and then we missed a three at the end to tie. So we can't dwell on that. We can't leave the games in other people's hands. We got to go out there and take it.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Asked about it, and his first response is, I have to be stronger with the ball. A lot of people with this referee talk over the last couple of days, some people would say to me, if they would have just called timeout, none of this would have happened. That's one way of looking at it. But those last 27 seconds, I don't know, if you're writing a movie to have a dramatic ending, a sports movie, a basketball movie, I don't know if you could have written that up any different because of the way it played out, the way the referees came into play, what all happened. A guy hits a three after missing 1 seconds earlier. Yeah, I don't know. It's still unbelievable to me the way it all played out.
Yeah, and you say Brunson's three. He basically throws a line drive that hits the front of the rim and somehow bounces
Gets
in.
a shooter's roll.
It was look, I kind of let my guard down, too, watching the game at that point. You do start to think in your head, okay, great, they won this game. But I think all the players on the court let their guard down a little bit. They thought the game was over. Even after Brunson hits his three, you could see all the 5 players on the court outside of Maxey and Lowry who are inbounding. The other just standing around. Now, we didn't talk about, and the L2M report doesn't really reference, it looked like Batum was trying to call timeout as well.
I haven't seen that. I think Amy told me that she saw that yesterday. I have not seen that. We have somebody on our YouTube page saying the report stated that Nurse tried to call timeout before the inbound pass and should have been given it. No, the report absolutely does not say that. It doesn't say he should have been given it. It said that he wasn't acknowledged. That means they didn't see it. That means either he took it down before a referee saw it. It doesn't say that he should have been given it.
And I think Batum asking for the timeout was not on the inbound. I think it was when Maxey was hitting the floor with the ball. So
is that what it was?
And I think basically they were probably saying that he didn't have control at that point.
Yeah, so let me ask you this, too. As you coached football. You know schematics. You know all that. The inbound play is run. You have 3 guys lined along the foul line a little bit deeper in Batum, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid. You have Kyle Lowry throwing the ball in, and you have Maxey kind of comes down and runs the baseline to get away to get the ball. Did you notice what the other 3 guys were doing?
Not much.
Nothing.
Yeah, they were just standing around.
Like nothing.
That's why I said I think they let their guard down. I think they all thought the game was over, too.
I saw one of them, point towards, don't forget, give him the ball, meaning Tyrese Maxey. One Knick defender had kind of 2 arms around the waist of somebody. The other 2 were to a side. But like an arm bar by Nick Batum and run towards the basketball, wide open that way. Why the other guys aren't doing something? And why is a play called there of, go Maxey, go get the ball? For lack of, he was curling down and running along the baseline or whatever. Look, I've seen 4 spreads run along a foul line when you're inbounding the ball before with picks made, either outside picks, inside picks, whatever it may be. You do something to go and get the basketball. Rarely have I seen, all right, let's get our fastest guy to go try to get the ball, and that's it. So didn't love that play calling there by Nick Nurse either. So many things were up for questioning, including the referees, in that final 27 seconds of a game, the likes of which I've just never seen before. Is it hard for a team? We heard what Tyrese Maxey said. Believable that they can, that it is behind them, or do you think some of it still sticks around?
It could really go one of 2 ways. You have to hope that Nick Nurse's messaging, and it gets through to the team, is, look, we're the better team. We've proven, even in game 1, if we would have got a couple more baskets when Embiid was on the bench, they were up, what was it, a plus 21? No, plus 14, minus 21 in game one without Joel. So I think if you could preach, look, we're the better team, you go into this game a little bit more positive. But we've talked a lot today about should they make some drastic changes for game three. Well, news is being reported that there could be a player coming back for game three that we have to talk about after the break, Bob, because I'm curious now if this player does in fact come back, what does that do to the starting rotation, but more importantly, the bench for Nick Nurse? So we'll get into that after the break.
Yeah, a little bit of a surprise that was thrown out there on Twitter today after Sixers practice. So we will get to that when we get back. Also, at 1 o'clock, Matt Breen from the Philadelphia Inquirer will be joining us to talk all things Philadelphia sports. Bill Colarulo's here with us until closing time, which will start the best show ever with Tyrone, Ricky, and Jen. And when we get back, as we said, let's tell you that news about the Philadelphia 76ers might be a little bit interesting. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now, a 76ers playoff update on 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Welcome back. Middays, 97.5 The Fanatic. Bill Colarulo joining us. About 10 minutes to 1. We're getting teased a little bit on our YouTube page about our breaks. Jim G, who's a good friend and love Jim, he says, man, if I went to my boss and said I wanted to take a break as many times as these guys do, he would say, go find another job. We can't help it. We just break when we're told.
That's correct.
Yeah, we just follow the rules. So that's what we're doing here today. All right, the news that we talked about. The news that we talked about before we went to break. 76ers had practice today, Bill. That's what they do. They had off yesterday to recover. Oh, another thing real quick. Tyrese Maxey, you can hear the nasally stuff and all that. It seems like he's fine, 100%. So that was a good thing you could take away from the TNT interview also last night. But they had practice today, Bill, and you read up on something that happened there.
Yeah, D'Anthony Melton practiced today. Told reporters after the game that he's ready for the game tomorrow after getting up and down the gym all day. So Nick Nurse was asked, said that he could be available. But it's interesting. So let's say D'Anthony Melton, let's assume he is going to be in the lineup tomorrow night. Does it change your starting five at all? And if not, and you have D'Anthony Melton coming off the bench, whose minutes is he taking?
No, I don't have him starting. You know, Nick Nurse said something a couple of weeks ago. I think I was down there with him. I don't know when it was, but he said, you know, playoffs isn't the time to try to get somebody healthy to play. And I was like, damn, D'Anthony Melton is not playing this series. However, when he said that, he wasn't down 0-2 in a series. And when he said that, he wasn't looking to get some extra kind of oomph from other players besides Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. That's interesting, Bill. Whose minutes could he dip into? You're not going to take minutes away from Nick Batum, I wouldn't think. And you're not taking Paul Reed's minutes are exactly tied with Joel Embiid. If anything, he's going to get more minutes if they want to play them together. Buddy Hield?
Buddy Hield only played 14 minutes.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if you relook at this and say, where are we going as far as how the lineup goes? It was so you have the minutes in front of you. We had 14 for Buddy Hield. I know there wasn't very many. Paul Reed, 8 or 9, somewhere around there?
A little under 9 minutes. Yeah,
okay.
8:54. And then you look at the starters. Maxey played over 44 minutes. Tobias played over 41 minutes. Joel, 39 minutes. Lowry, 33 minutes. Kelly Oubre, 25 minutes.
Now, here's one thought. You're not getting a lot of offense from Oubre, Tobias Harris, or Nick Batum, and they are doing a fantastic job defending Jalen Brunson. Is there maybe a thing where you say, hey, D'Anthony, get in there and play defense on Brunson, and Oubre and Tobias, please start concentrating more on your offense? Maybe?
I wouldn't mind that with Oubre in particular.
That would take Kyle Lowry minutes, I think.
Probably. As much as I love Kyle, he's 38 years old.
Yeah.
So maybe we have to start limiting his minutes a little bit. But I just still have a hard time, Nick Nurse saying to Tobias, hey, we need your offense tonight. I just don't rely. I can't rely on him. I just can't. But Oubre has been the shock to me. The fact that he only put up 4 points. So that could be I kind of like that idea, Bob. We talked about, do we change anything in Game 3? Maybe telling Oubre, don't worry so much on the defensive side of the ball. We need you to score. That could work.
D'Anthony Melton is a very, very good perimeter defender. If he was fully healthy, a game plan very well may have been by Nick Nurse to put him on Kyle Lowry to make him. Why do I keep saying Kyle on Jalen Brunson?
Because you're thinking about Kyle Lowry's minutes being taken away.
I'm thinking about Kyle Lowry not calling that timeout the other night. Very well could, because you're right. 38 years old. He's played 34 and 38, maybe, I think, in this series so far. He's played a lot of minutes. I still love Kyle Lowry being on the floor for you. I still like that floor general out there, although he at the end of the game the other night. But, yeah, that could be. That could be that D'Anthony Melton might just go in there. All right, Tobias, Kelly, get ready to play some offense because D'Anthony Melton's going to play some deep. Now, where's his conditioning?
Yeah,
that's a concern running around.
My fear, too, is not even the conditioning as much as if you have a game plan that really involves D'Anthony Melton and then he re-aggravates that back and he can't go, how does that affect your team? So I don't want to rely on him too much.
Yeah, no, and you probably can't do that there. Interesting, though. D'Anthony Melton was a big piece. I thought if this team was good, that he was your big piece coming off the bench. You know what I mean? If you had everybody together and you had a good team and you had D'Anthony Melton healthy on your roster, because there was at one point he was starting and there was a little juggle of, do you start Kelly Oubre or do you start D'Anthony Melton? Nick Nurse was going through his mind with that before D'Anthony Melton went down with the injury. Yeah, it's interesting. You're probably going to find him some minutes tomorrow night. And I think that's the way, just you and I talking this out, Bill. I think that's the way you do it. I think it's, get in there, cover Lowry. Offensively, the schemes and all that stuff. But give us 5 good minutes of covering Jalen Brunson. My God. Yeah. Cover Jalen Brunson. Give us 5 good minutes. Kelly and Tobias, hey, man, you're free now. Play defense, obviously, still box out. But let's go. Get out and run. Get out and try to get some offense going.
And also, Bob, what does this do to the psyche of the team? We talk about how do you flush an 0-2 start. You've mentioned before how much the players on the Sixers love D'Anthony Melton, loving his energy.
Yeah, they do.
Love what he provides. So you bring him back in Game 3 down 0-2. Maybe the mojo switches a little bit where they're feeling good, headed back home with hopefully a majority of Sixers fans in the building. We don't want the Knicks fans in the house. We need our Sixers fans. Don't sell your tickets. We need a big outgoing for our Sixers fans on Thursday night.
Yeah, and another thing, I haven't looked yet on Twitter. I'll do that during this break. At the end of the game on Monday night that we haven't talked about, Kyle Lowry did go down and did grab that knee and was very gingerly walking off the court. I'm anxious to see if we have any update on that also. So we'll check that out during the break. When we get back, Matt Breen from the Inquirer is going to join us at 1 o'clock to talk all things Philly sports, obviously Sixers, Knicks. Bill Colarulo is here with us all day long. Bob Cooney here, middays, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Maxey wins, most improved. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by Christian Heating, Cooling, and
Broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. Coming up at 2, the best show ever with Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Batalico, and Jen Scordo. Right now, it's Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
So just reading through here what DeAnthony Melton said after practice today. His quote was, "Today I went through practice, so I'm feeling good. I'm ready for the game tomorrow, and we'll see how it goes." I'm going to go out on a limb here. I don't think he's available tomorrow night.
Oh, you think there's a little smoke screen for Thibodeau?
I don't know if it's a smoke screen or not. I think Nick Nurse. I don't know. This is just me. I wonder if after all this off, Nick Nurse looks to him and says, "Okay, good. You're ready to go. Let's go."
But why have him meet with the media then?
Yeah, good point. Very good point. Well, media might have walked in, saw him, and said, "Oh, DeAnthony Pratt, can we have him?" I could be 1,000% wrong. After I just talked about how if I used him, I would use him in Kyle Lowry minutes. So, yeah, I could be completely wrong. I don't know why that quote stuck to me. Like, okay, he says he's ready. I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out. But right now on the Comcast Business Hotline, we are joined by the legendary. Is he too young to be called legendary, Ray?
Not at all.
Okay, good. Matt Breen joins us on the Comcast Business Hotline. Matt, what's going on, buddy?
I don't think I'm legendary, but...
Yeah, I kind of hesitated when I said it, Matt, to be honest with you.
Wow. No, at least you're being honest.
You know me. I'm always honest, Matt. So this Sixers series has been all the talk, and I know we'll get into you're working on a story for next week, which I think is going to interest. But this Sixers series so far, the refereeing thing, everything that's going on, Matt, how do you kind of sum it up, and where do you think the Sixers are right now?
I mean, you don't want to say it's over after 2 games, but just the way that unfolded, the way Game 2 unfolded, I would be stunned if they crawled out of this hole and won the series. And it was just, I didn't watch the local broadcast. I was watching the national broadcast, so I missed how the Sixers announcer said, like, post game's going to be fun, and we the goal was to get 2, but you split 1, and that's great. But and it's everyone can dunk on them now. But I watching it on the national broadcast, I had the same feeling. When they were up, like, wow, this is kind of crazy. Like, they looked like they were going to blow it the whole game. They're going to win that. And of all I've seen, I don't know how many times I've seen how surprising that way it unraveled. I can't really think of something like a quicker collapse that just came literally out of nowhere to the point of Jalen Brunson's shot hits the rim. The game was over. I was like, wow, he missed it. The game's over. And next thing you know, that it actually goes back down. It was just wild, and I think it's such a gut punch for this team that I just think it's over.
Wow. Matt, we wanted some positivity from you today, man.
Sorry.
But
I'm sorry. Yeah.
But, you say it was surprising. One of the things that surprised me over the first 2 games is that Kelly Oubre, who we thought was going to be a scorer, has only mustered 14 points, 10 in Game 1, 4 in Game 2. Has that surprised you how ineffective he's been on the offensive side of the court?
Yeah, especially the way he finished the end of the season. Role in the offense, and you talk about him like you said. You thought he was going to have a role in the offensive side in the playoffs, and that's what separates these 2 teams is that the Sixers scoring, if you look at it, it's really coming from 2 sources where the Knicks are getting a ton of points off the bench. They're getting a lot more than just 2 guys scoring. It's spread out a lot more. So it's a challenge when you're going up against a team that is getting points off the bench and you're not getting points really from anybody but 2 guys, and the guys that you thought you could count on aren't scoring. It just makes it that much more difficult, especially in crunch time when now they know where the ball is going. So you're focused on 2 guys, and you take one of those 2 guys away, and it's you're really taking away the offense.
Matt, so many things happened there in that last 27 seconds. What was the biggest one for you? It could have been some, no call.
Yeah, we can focus on the refs and stuff and the timeout and everything, but really it's the rebound. It's the rebound there that seals the game. And there's not a lot of things in sports that, like, we talk about effort so much and, like, who wants it more, but, like, there's not a lot of things in sports that it really comes down to that. You know, a lot of it is, like, at the end of the day, it's who's more talented or who has more skill. It's not like who works hard. You know, everybody works hard, so it's not like who works harder. But it really, like, for rebounding in basketball, like, that's, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of it. That might be the one thing that's left. It comes down to effort. Like, you literally need to want to rebound. And game one, you don't get out rebounded by that kind of margin because of skill or athleticism. It's really effort. So there was no effort on the glass in game one. Game two, a little bit better. The margin wasn't as big. Obviously, it was a lot tighter. But when it came down, and if you look at the replay, like we've all watched it a million times, there's literally no effort. It's just guys spreading out the lane like the Red Sea and comes right down and grabs an offensive rebound. And next thing you know, the game's over. So that, to me, that's the whole thing right there. You need to want it. You need to want to win. At the end of the game, you need to grab a rebound. You need to grab a man and box out, like basic basketball fundamentals. And they just were caught standing there. Everybody's watching the ball. Next thing you know, you're down 2-0.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of the Sixers players, just like the announcer, and you said you thought watching the national broadcast that the game was over. It kind of looked like that's how they thought in those last 20 seconds. They let up a little bit. But with that being said, they did have that game basically won. So now heading into game 3, would you make some drastic changes or would you kind of go with the same plan that you had in game 2?
Yeah, I think your plan is both games were close and both games were winnable. So your plan, at the most part, is probably sound. You fine-tune some things, and you know, you guys were talking about Melton before, and you hope you get a guy like that can come back and play, and maybe that's the difference. But I don't think it's like Nick Nurse did a boxing one in the playoffs before and can get crazy. I don't think it's like time to, like, you know, go into the kitchen sink and get something crazy. But I think you just hope that your team that was close in game 1, even though Embiid missed a big chunk of the game, and then, you know, super close and had the game in game 2, can take these games at home. I guess that's – I don't think it's time to change anything because you didn't get blown out. You didn't get really outplayed largely. But just being down 2 games to none is just such a huge hole. And especially it's not just being down 2-0. It's the way you went down 2-0. To me, is why I think it's, you know, I don't want to say like it's over, but like to me, I would be stunned if they can climb out of this.
We're talking to Matt Breen from the Inquirer, Inquirer.com, on the Comcast Business Hotline. Matt, I'm going to switch it over to baseball. The Phillies won 7 in a row. I'll give you these numbers that you're probably already aware of. Their starters in those 7 wins, Matt, 51 2/3 innings, gave up only 24 hits, 3 earned runs, 53 strikeouts to 9 walks. It's a .522 by the starters in that 7-game winning streak. Now, the caveats. 2 bad teams, Colorado and Chicago, are both horrible. You're not going to get starting pitching like that throughout the whole season. But can this starting pitching really be – we always talk about the hitting on this club. Can the starting pitching be one of the big, good focal points of this team for this year?
For sure, especially if you have 3 starting pitchers. Like you're not going to have 5 starting pitchers, right? 3 really good starting pitchers, and that sets you apart. That's not many teams have not just 3 good starting pitchers, 3 really good starting pitchers. Especially when Ranger Suarez looks like he's at least going to be an all-star. Like, and I know it's early, so you don't want to get ahead of it, but like he's pitching great. And yes, against bad teams, obviously, but like we talked about before, that's what you're supposed to do that to bad teams. So like that's how good teams win. That's how you win 100 games.
Right.
Is by taking care of bad teams and treading water, playing a little bit above treading water against good teams. So that's what they're supposed to do. And it's like the season was over 2 weeks ago when they got off to a slow start. And it's like, no, like hold your horses, calm down. It's not May yet. Next thing you know, they win 7 in a row. I know they lose last night, but you're not going to win every game in baseball. And they pitching looks great, and the offense is starting to come around, which it's going to come around. You know, especially as the weather gets warmer. They're playing against teams. It's what you're supposed to do. And Ranger Suarez, like we talked about right before opening day, was probably the big X factor for this team because you knew what you had in Nolan Wheeler, and you've seen a lot of promise in Ranger Suarez. He had that full spring training, healthy, on time to camp, and he's looked great.
So you're talking about how good the pitching looks, and you're focused on the top three, obviously. But it looks like Tawan Walker is going to be coming back, which means Spencer Turnbull probably gets pushed out of the starting rotation. What do you think about that? Would you do that? Would you take Turnbull, who's pitched so well in his first few outings, would you take him out of that starting rotation?
Like, I get it, right? Because Turnbull had so few innings last year, and you're managing his workload and stuff like that. But the guy's pitching so good, and I think you know what you have in Taiwan Walker, right? And to me, just keep Turnbull in there. Just keep him pitching. I think there's so much emphasis on, like, workloads and innings. This isn't a kid. He's not a draft pick coming up in the majors. Like, this guy's a pretty, kind of a veteran major leaguer. He's been around for a decent stretch in Detroit. And I just would have let him stay. He's pitching so good. It's crazy. Like, he literally was almost going to throw a no-hitter. And if he threw a no-hitter, then you would have taken him out. That would have been his last start. He would have went to the bullpen. I get it logically. I understand. You're trying to watch his arm and stuff. But sometimes I think you need to just, like, think it can't just be based on the numbers. And that was the plan. It's like, oh, this guy's pitching lights out. He looks great. Let's let him ride for a couple more starts. Put Walker in the bullpen and let Walker earn his spot there. So, and a lot of it, like, no one will say this, but it has to do with the contract.
There it goes. I was just going to bring that up, Matt.
It's something that doesn't get talked about is Walker's contract. And you would be, and I say this, like, not to be like a hot take, like, if you look at all the free agent contracts in Philly's history, it's harder to find a worse contract in the history of the team. And the guy who was a league average starter last year, like, ERA plus is about league average, but he couldn't pitch in the playoffs. So, like, you couldn't pitch this guy in the playoffs. Then he wasn't ready to start the season on time. And now this is obviously it's you still have multiple years left on this deal. So I don't think if he wasn't getting paid what they were paying and the commitment years wise that they gave him, I don't think he would be taking Turnbull's spot. But that's what's going to happen. It's going to play out, and if he falters, then at least you have Turnbull in the bullpen to come back for that job.
The contract of which you speak is 4 years, $72 million. The good news is only $72 million of it is guaranteed. So, yeah, it is crazy. All right, Matt, I'm going to leave you with this. You started off a little shaky with your skepticism, but I'll give you another chance. What happens in the end of this series with the Sixers and the Knicks?
They win the next 4 games, and they blow them out every night, and it's over. No, I think it's going to be a good series. You have to win for the next 5 games, really. You can't lose 2, but I think it goes back to New York and it ends in New York.
Well, Matt, we really appreciate you once again joining us. We will talk to you again next Wednesday. And looking forward to a story that you're working on, I think I saw on Twitter. You want to tell the people about that a little bit?
Yeah, Frank Wycheck obviously was, he threw the Music City Miracle with the Titans. He's from Philly, from, the best part of town, the Northeast, was a legend. Up here, I never met Frank Wycheck, but everybody, you felt a connection because he's from your neighborhood. And he died right before Christmas, 2 weeks before Christmas, and he donated his brain for CTE research. And now they're waiting to find out if he had that. And it just, he was pretty open with his friends and family about how he felt. Post-retirement, concussions caused him to retire, and then it was like a battle from then on of mental health and trying to live normal. But he had anxiety and depression and social anxiety, headaches, obviously, and it was like this constant struggle. And then he died in December, and it was just seemed like life was getting a little bit better for him. He had moved back to Tennessee and was living with near his kids and his grandkids, and kind of a sad ending. Obviously, it's a sad story that you had to live with this, but it's even sadder that it was like getting better for him. So a story about how he got to the NFL and then what the kind of stuff that he had to overcome afterwards.
Yeah, all right. We look forward to reading that, Matt. And once again, like I said, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it, guys. Take
all
care.
right, buddy. Have a good one. Matt Breen from the Inquirer, Inquirer.com. Yeah, I think I told you this story, Bill, right? After the, what do they call it, the Music City Miracle? My boss said, Cooney, get Wycheck. And I'm like, what? He's like, find a way, get Wycheck. We need a story on this. So I called down to their PR people, and they're like, look, there's an awful lot of people looking for him. And I said, well, can you tell him it's his hometown paper, the Philadelphia Daily News? Tell him Ted Solari sent me. Within hours.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cool. And we did this story on the Music City Miracle, all because Ted Solari was so great, God rest his soul, in doing what he did, and Frank Wycheck had remembered him. So Matt's not real confident about this Sixer series, it seems like. Big hole to crawl out of. There's one thing you can't overlook. These two teams have played 6 times this year. The Knicks have won 5 of them. Now you're expecting the Sixers to win 4 out of 5. When you look at it that way, it doesn't come across all that good.
True, but if you look at the rosters as they're currently constructed, the Knicks, I don't think, have beaten this team in the regular season with this current roster because
correct.
The game Joel played, they didn't have any of these guys. It was before the deadline, and then the other games that they played, Joel wasn't in the lineup. So, yeah, the first 2 playoff games, they lost with Joel, but you could argue Joel didn't play the full game in game 1, and they had game 2 won.
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of weird stuff happened in that in the regular season, but nothing more strange than the last 27 seconds of that game on Monday night. Jonah in Bristol wants to join us. Jonah, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm just. I know you guys talk about it a lot, but I'm just reminiscing about Tobias Harris, man. I can't believe this guy's on the court making $36 million a year, not even taking shots in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's not good offensively for him right now. I always say this, Jonah, and I'm not, putting you down. I don't care about the money, like when he's playing, because he's on your team. I got to get the most out of him, no matter if he's making $1 or $36 million. But yeah, he's just not giving you much of. He played really good defense on Jalen Brunson the other night, but you need more offensively, right?
Absolutely, and I just want to know who made the decision to pay him that money over Jimmy Butler.
Back then, I believe was
Elton Brand, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't Elton Brand and Brett Brown in charge.
I truly believe we would have two championships under our belt if we still had Jimmy Butler, 100%.
Okay, well, we can't look back, but Jonah, appreciate the phone call. You can't look back, and I'm not putting Jonah. You give me 5 players and throw them on a basketball court. I don't care what they're making. I don't. I understand that people are frustrated because he got all that money, and just as Jonah put it, you could have had something. You don't. You have Tobias Harris. He's got to be one of your 5 best players out on that floor because of what he's done in his NBA career. He hasn't shown that, at least offensively yet, Bill, in this series.
No, and Tobias is the easy target. 3 starters not named Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, they combined for 22 points. Yeah, so Oubre didn't give you much. Kyle Lowry only gave you 8 points. So it's not just Tobias. We need more from everybody. But, yeah, Tobias should be included in that. And then after the break, Bob, we got to talk about it. Tom Thibodeau addressed the L2M report.
Oh, good old Tommy. We got to come up with a nickname.
Tommy Tibbs.
Have you ever seen a more miserable person coaching a sport in your life?
Doc Rivers, when they told him he was going to be the Bucks head coach.
There you go.
Nah, I saw Doc smile the other night. Thibodeau looks like he's preparing himself for his own funeral on the sidelines every day. He looks so miserable doing something that he absolutely loves. I almost feel bad for the guy, but not all that much. Okay, when we get back, we will hear from Tom Thibodeau and what he had to say about the L2M report. Also, some more talk. Just about a half hour to go here. Tyrone, Ricky, and Jen are getting all prepared there. So when we get back, more Sixers talk.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Maxey wins most improved. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by Half. 9 out of 10 hiring managers are having difficulty hiring today. Robert Half is here to help. At Robert Half, they know talent. Visit roberthalf.com today. Tyrese Maxey.
the team.
Sixty times. They can only call 30.
Yep.
So it well. But what you talk about, Jalen Brunson, how many more times are we also going to see him dip a shoulder into Kelly Oubre's stomach, move him out of the way, and then pull up for a jump shot? Like, there's nothing. You can have fans whining. When you have a coach doing that, I'm surprised it's not 97% of the players in the league don't want to play for him.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you, so what is this going to do now Thursday night? So the L2M report comes out. They acknowledge some missed calls. You now have Thibodeau coming out at his press conference saying, oh, look what they're doing to Brunson. Do you expect the refs to let them play on Thursday, or do you think there's going to be a lot of fouls called?
That's a great question. I think they'll let them play a little more. Yeah, like they kind of have been. I don't think the happenings of a couple of days ago will affect maybe. Like Tyrone had a point. He said, watch, Joel Embiid's going to go to the foul line 15 times on Thursday. I was like, wow, okay, and I understand Ty's thinking on it. Is there another part of it that says, hey, yeah, we messed up the last game, but don't try this game? I don't know. I don't know how it goes. Knowing the people, some of the people around the league the way I do, they would want it to be said that, no, that game has no effect on Thursday night. But again, we talked about it yesterday. There is human nature involved, and you can't take that away. As much as we want referees to be robotic and perfect and the players to be robotic and perfect, you're not going to get that. It's still a human game called by human beings. So I don't know. It'll be interesting, Bill.
So you asked me earlier about the fact that the Knicks have won how many games that they've played against the Sixers?
5 out of 6 this year, yeah.
5 out of 6. During the break, I saw StatMuse put out this stat. Lost 4 games together since January 1st. 3 of them are to the New York Knicks. A little scary.
Interesting. That's scary. The fact that they are in the 26 games since OG Anunoby has played for them.
Yeah.
It's scary that you're down 0-2. Ray's scary when he gets on those tangents, but that's just what you have to do. All right, when we finish up here, last segment, take you to 2 o'clock, we'll wrap it up. We'll talk about how our feelings really are for this Sixers game tomorrow night. I'm not going to ask for predictions. I don't like to give them. I don't like to be asked for them. But we'll take a closer look at what's going on with your 76ers. This is Middays. Bill Colarulo with us all day here today. We appreciate that. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic.
The
because 2 o'clock is closing time for us, but the lights stay on for the best show ever with Tyrone, Ricky, and Jen. So get ready for them. I thought their show was a lot of fun yesterday. Tyrone giving his all out there. Oh, pissed off. That was a fun listen. A lot of people agreeing with him, calling in and getting rid of their feelings, and that was awesome yesterday. So stay tuned for more great radio today. Got to tell you that the 1 o'clock hour, it's brought to you by Ferguson HVAC. Did I already do this? I thought I did. Ferguson HVAC, Lyon Conklin. Attention HVAC contractors for equipment, parts, and supplies for every heating and cooling job. Visit one of Ferguson's counter locations in Bensalem, King of Prussia, Pennsauken, or Westchester. So 65 and sunny in San Diego all weekend for you, Ray. So I'm very happy for you. I just looked that up on my phone because I'm wishing you the best of times ever.
I will be here tomorrow. For everyone that's, this feels like a farewell show to me. I am going to be here.
All.
A little bit. It does sound like you're like, hey, man, you changing your flight to later today? You trying to get me on the West Coast already?
No, that is not the case at all.
You have a great trip, Ray.
Yeah, have fun.
I will. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
We're going to break out something new on tomorrow's show. Should I tease it today, I think?
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, so a little behind-the-scenes thing. Like, Ray and I goof around a lot. And we mess up a lot. We mess up on the air a lot because we've only been doing this for a little bit of time. So Ray and I were talking about a week or so ago as we were in another studio recording something. And people have heard me on the air every once in a while, Bill. I'll get like the giggles that I can't get out of. And it used to happen a lot more often before I worked with Ray because it was more fun back then. But I'll get those giggles that I did like a little kid, and I can't stop. Well, Ray and I get them oftentimes in the studio when we're recording stuff. So he recorded it one time without telling me, and I said, oh, we should start doing our bloopers thing. And so tomorrow we'll debut that. And we are calling it, in honor of the last 2-minute report, we're calling it what, Ray?
The last week report.
The last week report. So we're going to do a week in review. Bill, you might even pop up on there yourself at some point, but we'll have some fun with that tomorrow before Ray goes on his, little 3,000-mile weekend.
Want to be very clear. This is it. We're walking into a different lane of mistakes. We will still be contributing to Out of Context on the best show ever. This is more the missteps of speaking. Your Nick Spolstras of the world, or more the.
Okay, don't give it all away, Ray.
Well, no, it's okay. I don't think that one's a week. Okay. Problem. I'm proud of you. We moved past the Heat, and you moved past Nick Spolstra.
I did. It's now Eric Spolstra. Now, if I could only get Jalen Brunson and Kyle Lowry straight,
now that
everything would be just perfect.
Tomorrow.
All right, Bill. So number 22 pick. I just saw this on Twitter, so I decided I wanted to ask you this. Eagles have the number 22 pick on Thursday night. Percentage that they stay there, percentage that they move back, percentage. And this is just your thinking.
50% they stay put, 25%.
All right.
I think it's really going to depend on how the draft board falls. I just don't like the idea. I said it earlier. I just said it to Tyrone. I don't like the idea of them giving up one of their second-round draft picks to move up the draft board. Unless they absolutely are in love with somebody. I just love the idea of getting 3 of the top 53 prospects. I think that gives you a lot more likelihood to hit on more than one of those players. You get 3 out of 53 as opposed to only 2 out of 53. Because even if they move up the draft board, there's no guarantees.
No.
And that's why everybody falls in love with players these times. Oh, they got to get this guy. They got to get that guy. And they're going to tell you about the time they wanted the Eagles to draft this player and look how good he is. But they very rarely will tell you, I wanted that player who no longer is in the league.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to happen all that much. But for people that might not have been listening in the noon hour when we went kind of deep on there, where do you think you're going to go? I'm not asking you players perfectly. It is such a crapshoot. But if we're going position, your top 3 positions that you think the Eagles are going to go at that 22 pick.
I think they're going offensive line. I would be shocked if they go elsewhere. I think the second best possibility would be edge rusher. That's the position that Howie Roseman has taken more than any position while he's been the general manager. And then I think at a distant third would be cornerback. I know that makes a lot of fans upset, but if I'm looking at it and if they stay put, I think they go offensive line in the first round, And I think you'll see with their 2 second-round picks, corner, tight end. That's what I think they leave with after the first 2 days of the draft. I know people want linebacker. I do too. I just don't see them addressing that with their first 3 picks.
Okay, you said unless they fall in love or they're in love with someone moving up, talking about that. So let me ask you this. You're sitting at 22 come Thursday night, right? And Seattle's about to pick at 16. You're in talks with Seattle because a guy named Brock Bowers is still out there at 16.
I love Brock Bowers.
I thought I heard you say that before also. All right, Bill Colarulo, you have just been named GM of the Philadelphia Eagles for the 22nd pick and the 53rd pick. Seattle will get 16th and like a 99th pick, something like that. And you can get Brock Bowers. Would you do it? Because this is the one guy that I think with you, when you said it before, it stuck in my head.
I love him. I would love to see him in a Philadelphia Eagles uniform. But I don't know. That may be too rich for me to move up by giving up your 53rd overall pick. But you're saying if Seattle threw in their 3rd round pick?
Yeah, say they throw in a 3rd or whatever. And
let me do the math real quick because I'm looking at the draft value chart. So their 16th pick plus their 3rd round pick would be worth $1,185. If they gave up the 780, blah, 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 that's actually almost spot on there, Bob.
Look at that.
That's almost spot on.
I'm a draft guru. Guru right here, Ray. You do it. Brock Bowers, you want him here with the cut pants up to the thigh?
If they got the 3rd round pick as well, so if the Eagles got Brock Bowers and then picked up a 3rd round pick, yeah, man, give me Brock Bowers. But I'm biased. I played tight end in college. That's my
well, you mentioned his name before, and it stuck in my head. And I said, let me see if I can get Bill on this. During the break, it kind of popped in.
But he's even more than just a tight end. I mean, he is an absolute weapon.
Yeah.
And I do expect the Philadelphia Eagles to take a tight end with one of their top 3 picks. I don't think it'll be Brock Bowers. I like the guy out of Texas, Sanders. I think he's more of a project, but I could see them taking him in the 2nd round.
All right. Well, listen, we thank you for joining us today. Get ready for the best show ever. They're with you tomorrow morning, 10 to 2.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Maxey wins most approved. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you.